And so you may think, well, what's the contradiction? So the contradiction is this. Well, it's not a contradiction, but just as an explanation. So I think Trump has capitulated to every single one of Iran's demands, but the problem is we've got a country called Israel, and what they're gonna do is they're gonna derail the deal. And so you may ask, like, wait a sec, how are they gonna derail the deal? Well, I think that the deal is gonna be agreed, and it's quite clear that part of the deal is that Lebanon is part of the deal. So Lebanon is part of the deal, and apparently, according to Hezbollah, in the MP, so the governmental branch of the resistance, they're saying that also Israel must retreat. And so the question is, will Israel retreat? Unlikely, but not. That's not bad enough to make it restart. Guys, if you're on the YouTube, let me know if you can hear as well. Um, but what the problem is going to be is, I'm very confident in saying this, that Israel's going to bomb Lebanon. So Israel bombs Lebanon. There's this deal. Iran receives obviously all the bits and bobs it's going to receive, but Israel's violated the deal, and so then this puts Iran in a trap, because from what my experience of Iran has been is when they sign an agreement, they kind of try and abide by the agreement, even when the other side doesn't, and that's a problem because the other side won't be abiding by the agreement, and you essentially put yourself in a trap where Israel will continue bombing Lebanon, but then you've got a ceasefire deal, and this is going to be akin to what Israel has done in Gaza. This is going to be akin to what Israel's done in Lebanon from 2024 to 2026. And I think that's a failed outlook, and that could cause a lot of disharmony in Iran. It will make people lose trust in Iran, and maybe a lot of this coalition that they built, which was supporting Iran, whether it's the left, whether it's the right, whether it's Sunnis or Shias or Christians or whomever, that people will then think that, wait a sec, Iran have they betrayed Lebanon in order to get this deal, in order to benefit themselves. So I think that's what the trap is in terms of this, and this is, I think that's kind of my overarching view on what's going on. But let's go to Andy. Andy, jump in. I want to hear from everyone in the audience. Let's see what everyone's got to say.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting because we know in Israel, even if Israel officially signed on the deal and said, yeah, we're not going to bomb Lebanon, which we know Israel's not signing, Israel still wouldn't abide by it because there's never been a deal that Israel hasn't broken. So this whole thing is a complete and utter joke at this point. So this whole thing is a joke. Can you shut up, Mom? Sorry, my mom is freaking yelling in the background. Forgive me. So, Israel is not going to abide by any deal, so that puts Iran in a tough spot. And there's a lot more than 30 billion in frozen assets, by the way. I think it's like 100 to 120 billion according to Google. I mean, none of us know the official number. I mean, only probably Iran and the US government knows the official number. So let's so Iran's going to get a lot of frozen assets. And again, Israel's going to probably pressure Trump to not sign this deal too, because they're going to say, hey, look, you said Obama was giving them plane loads of cash in all of this. And the plane loads of cash was like $1 billion or $2 billion in unfrozen assets. So how is Trump going to spin this to the MAGA base
Well, it
when
was way
Iran
more
gets
than
tens
that.
Okay, but it wasn't close to 15 billion or
No, it was
30
way
billion
more
or
than that.
whatever.
It was many tens of billions of dollars that the Obama administration gave Iran.
I don't think it was. I don't think it was tens of billions. But regardless, with the sanctions relief, it's going to be a better deal than what they had under Obama. So the fact that they fought a war for Iran to get a better deal than Obama, it's going to be hard for Trump to spin this as a win. I mean, he'll still be able to come out of it and say, well, we set out for Iran to not get a nuke. They don't have a nuke, so he'll be able to still at least bring that back to his base. And I guess really that's the talking point the MAGA base has used. Iran can't get a nuke, and Iran wasn't trying to get a nuke anyway. So, I mean, his base at the end of the day will be happy. You'll have the Laura Loomers, the Mark Levins, the Ted Cruzes, and the Lindsey Grahams screaming. But, I mean, most of Trump's base doesn't care about those people. Like, I mean, they'll vote Lindsey Graham in, but they don't care about his opinion on any issues.
Just want to welcome Hoz into the conversation. I know Hoz is on the ground in Iran, so I really want to hear what he's got to say.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I wanted to come back quickly and talk to you.
Yeah, go for
and
it,
just
brother.
say to you, mate, that there is no way whatsoever that this deal is going to go through and it's going to get accepted by the Iranian people. I'm in the squares and the people are asking, like, the speakers are coming up and saying, do you agree with the 10-point plan? And the people are saying, yes, we agree with the 10-point plan. The 10-point plan is not this 15-point memorandum of understanding that has come up. This memorandum of understanding is not accepted by the people of Iran. If these people think that they're going to go ahead and do that, I've already spoken to people in the Basij, I've spoken to the clergy who are friends of mine, and they've turned around and said that if this government thinks, if these people think that we, the people of Iran, are going to accept anything less than those 10 points, there's going to be a revolution in this country, and they're not going to like it. So just take that from the street, from clergymen, which is the right wing of our country, right? And they're not accepting this in any way, shape, or form. The besieged people, who are the IRGC people, who are all the people I hang out with, who are all my friends, they're the ones I share offices with. We're not happy in any way, shape, or form, and we're not going to fucking take it either. So they can do whatever they want to do. They can talk to whoever they want, but they don't control this country. Those politicians and those parliamentarians, if they think that we're going to sit there and allow them to come with some cock and makey deal, whatever they want with Donald Trump, the murder of Haj Qasem Soleimani, the murder of Agha, the murder of the children of Minav, they're out of their minds. It ain't happening. Okay? It it will not be accepted. They can go and sign as many deals as they want. The people of Iran not accepting it. And you can take that to the bank. Same way as I told you before that Hezbollah is part of every conversation and we will never abandon them. And everyone turned around and said, oh yeah, Hezbollah is going to get sold down the river. It's going to get in great. I don't know whatever Simon said and other people said about how Hezbollah is going to be forgotten. We don't abandon the people that went to war with us. We don't abandon the people that went to war for Palestine, okay, which is Hezbollah. And we will never abandon Gaza either. Okay, the Israelis need to understand that, and if they don't understand that, they're going to find out. That's all I wanted to say to you, my brother.
So,
Thank you very
Charles,
much for
just a
letting me
quick
talk.
question. Did you hear
Yeah,
my point about the trap?
I didn't hear you. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
so
I had
I
to
think that
phone my
what's going to
mother.
happen is, yeah, I'll explain it. So,
Yeah,
looking at what's in the deal, obviously, it looks like Trump's conceded to everything that Iran wants. So that's
right.
not a problem, right? I don't think there's anything need for revolution when basically it's a surrender document, right? But I think what the problem is going to be is, and this is where the trap I'm saying is 2 days later or a week later, Israel is going to bomb Lebanon. And in that situation, what does Iran do? Because Iran, in that situation, essentially is a bit stuck because what we've seen with Iran at the moment is they do need something bigger to happen before they do respond. Like they try their best to uphold a deal, even if the other side isn't upholding the deal. So, what I think is going to happen is Israel will probably bomb Lebanon in a week or something and then continue bombing them. And then Iran's going to be pressured to do something. Now, if they don't do something at that point, they're going to lose the trust of the world. Like, there is a big coalition of people who are supporting Iran who ordinarily wouldn't, whether they're Muslim,
Yeah.
Christian, Sunni, Shia, left, right. But many of those people will start thinking, wait a sec, these guys are just looking for their own interests rather than, you know what I mean?
Sully, have I ever lied to you?
Nah, bro. No, it's not about you lying. It's about the
Okay,
what's
no,
in
but
there.
what I'm telling you is this, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, my brother, yeah? If they attack Lebanon, if they attack Hezbollah, there will be no deal. It doesn't matter what they've said, okay? Because the IRGC, which is our Basij, okay? We are the Hezbollah of our country, okay? The Hezbollah of Lebanon are our brothers. Ansar Allah are our brothers. Hamas are our brothers. That's the understanding you need to take into account. We're not going to allow Israel to dictate anything. They're on the losing side of this situation. Okay? America does not have the power projection to do anything else that it hasn't already done in 39 days. There is nothing that we fear from them. Okay? The only thing they can do is come and nuke us. And even if they nuke us, we're still not going to surrender. And we're still going to keep fighting. Because that's the mentality of people who are, the followers of Imam Hussein. And I'm not on my own when I tell you this. This is the Iranian people. We've been on the streets of this country for 105 nights, happy to stand under every missile and bomb. And you think we're going to surrender to these people? The number of Hezbollah flags every single night in Inqilab Square, in every square in this country of ours, yeah, there's as many Hezbollah flags as there are Iranian flags. You attack Lebanon, it's the same as attacking us. When we went to war, when we got attacked, yeah, in Iran got attacked by America and Israel, less than 5 hours later, Hezbollah launched an attack and said, "We're in this war with you." You think we're going to abandon those people? Do you really think Iranians are going to let go of those people who stood by us through thick and thin, who stood by Palestine through thick and thin? No, my brother. There is no deal. You break the treaty, you're going to suffer the consequences. And that's a promise from someone who's sitting here right now in the offices of people who will turn these politicians out on their asses. Yeah, the army will do that.
Yeah, I mean, let's see, because as an example, South Lebanon has been bombed, hasn't it? Like Iran did kind of say that they were gonna like not allow South Lebanon to be bombed. But then remember when I spoke to Professor Morandi, he did clarify that look, that wasn't really part of the agreement, but it is something we're considering. And so I think
Yeah, Professor Morandi is not a part of the IRGC. Professor Morandi is a professor that's
no, but
speaking on
that's what
behalf of
happened,
the
right?
Iranian government.
No,
Yeah,
but
he's also part of the negotiating team as well. Again, he is not, okay, the people that I'm with. He's not with those people. I love him to bits. I'm seeing him on Sunday. And I tell you something now, not everyone agrees with each other. And Iran is not a place where everyone's got a consensus. And the consensus with the army people and with the clergy, what you consider to be the right wing, is that we don't want a deal. We want to finish this in a kinetic manner. And we're
but
happy to do it in a
but
kinetic manner.
Hoz, like I mean, South Lebanon has been bombed and they haven't struck Israel, isn't it? So there is this
Yeah, because you know
yeah.
why? Because this deal was supposed to be put in place to stop it all in the next few hours. That's why. And now, if the deal is signed
Mm.
and it's agreed by all sides and they start again, I promise you we will fucking bomb them. It will get bombed. It will get bombed. But this is the reason they didn't bomb them today is because the deal was nearly this memorandum of understanding is going to be done. And by the way, we getting paid for the Strait of Hormuz. You can call it a fee, you can call it lunch money, you can call it a toll, you can call it whatever you fucking like. But you're paying to go through the Straits of Hormuz to Iran for the rest of your existence. That is another fact of life, mate. That is it. You know, we you don't understand how important Allah is to us. Imam Khamenei is an important human being and he sacrificed his life for our country. And we're not going to let his blood just go because these people are making deals. These people are the ones that gave him trouble. These same people who are the oligarchs. And it's always the oligarchs, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in America, whether it's in Iran. These oligarchs are the ones that like to make deals behind it, like to be the shadow government. They're the ones that made the life of my supreme leader a misery. And we're going to make sure that those oligarchs' life is made a misery. That's what's going to happen to them. That's what we're going to do to them. Iranian politics is very, very complicated, but it's about to become uncomplicated. I promise you that as well.
Fair enough, Hoz, fair enough. Hope you're right. Obviously, we stand with Iran as they fight against Israel and Zionism, and if there ever is a deal, then we won't. But Abbas Araghchi, in his statement, Hoz, did talk about that they were going to get some investment. What's your thoughts about this? This is selling your country out to American corporations, isn't it?
It's not selling out anything. We just want our money. We're at about $100 billion in frozen assets. Right, what's his name? China's got about 20 billion of our dollars that they want to transfer over to us. If they transfer it over to us, guess what? They're going to have problems. Qatar's got 6 or 8 billion. 7 billion is in India. 6 billion is in Emirates. We just want our money. And I'll tell you what, we will make all our money back up from our fees, from our lunch money, from our blackmailing of the Strait of Hormuz, call it what you will. We'll get all our money back, but we need to get the money that's owed to us frozen. And it's not like, we want investments from people. we just want our money back. And you're going to give us our money as part of this deal. You're not going to be able to keep any of our money. And furthermore, you're not going to be allowed to block our money anywhere else anytime again. That's it. That's the
That's
deal.
part of the deal, yeah.
So,
That's part. No, no, but there's another
yeah.
element that Abbas Aragchi said. Let me find it to you and read it to you.
Yeah. What you're saying is that they're going to make
Yeah.
investments. I can promise you, yeah, that Iran has pivoted to China, has pivoted to Russia, it's pivoted away from America. Investments from Americans are not going to be welcome. Just to give you an idea of the kind of visa restrictions there are on Americans and British people and other people around the world, to show you the level of trust that we have for them. If an American person applies for a visa, it takes up to 3 months for them to get, unless they're a special guest of the government, all right? And then wherever that American goes, wherever he goes, he's got someone standing within earshot of him. So if he's eating a meal, the guy sitting at the table next to him is an Iranian agent that occupying him, okay? Spending time with him. That's how much we trust Americans. When British people come over here, they have to give a list of where they're going to, every single place, every meeting they're going to. That's how much trust we have for them. Chinese people, Turkish people, Russian people, anybody else can come and do whatever, like Australian people, they can come and go. We don't want nothing else to do with America because America is an untrustworthy government when it's come to dealing with them. They've not been the best business partners. All they've ever done is ruin our lives as Iranians. We had a democratic country in 1953, and now we don't have anything like that. Why? Because America chose to do that. That's it. And we don't need their money. We have our own money. And I promise you, Iran is about to grow into become a world superpower. A world superpower. We've got so many young people in universities in this country that are dying to come out. And we've got more people doing PhDs in this country than you can imagine. And if you think that, these rockets and missile systems and all of the power projection through military power can't be repurposed to other things like AI, like all the AI champions around the world are Iranian kids. We've got a society that's growing at unbelievable levels when it comes to tech. And you know what? 60% of them are women. 60% of all the university students are women. And we're told, like, yeah, your women are a bit backwards, behind the curve. Are they really? I don't think so. No, mate. And I've travelled up and down Tehran. No one is wearing a fucking hijab unless they want to wear it. I was in a place in North Tehran, mate. Okay, it was like I was sitting in Westfield in what's it called in White City. There was like two people that were wearing a slight hijab. Everyone else was just dressed like jeans, t-shirts, men, women. No one gives a shit, and they're going about older women don't have any rights, mate. The world needs to open its eyes up and stop believing Netflix propaganda and bullshit about Iran. That's all you need to do and I hope to go. And also, the medical treatment over here is insane. You can get all your teeth done, like replace the whole lot for like 250 million toman, which is like £1,100. That same thing in Thailand's like 8 or 9,000. Same thing in England's about £28,000 or £19,000. I can't remember. And America's like $30,000. And you get and plastic surgery, the kind of medical like stuff advances they've got here. It's off the charts, mate. It's off the charts. There's more plastic surgery being done in Tehran than pretty much anywhere else in the world. Everyone's getting a nose job. That is not a society that's backward. That's a society that's projecting forwards. And, I really do hope that people after this war ends will make an effort to come to Iran, visit this country, and actually see the beauty of the people here. And also, our women, oh my fucking God, are they beautiful. Iranian women are absolutely off the charts, beautiful creatures. So I don't know what to tell you, mate. That's life. That's life. May's love is one of those beautiful Iranian women. Oh, I've got to go to sleep, Sully. I'm dying, mate. I've got to be up at 8 in the morning.
Awesome. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Take you, my brother. Love you.
Yeah,
Bye.
appreciate it. Like, let's. So I think Andy and Manko were speaking, right? You guys were speaking about the the amount that Obama unfroze. So I was looking at it. Biden gave 6 billion of Iran's frozen assets, and then a 10 billion based on sanction waiver. So they're saying because he waived sanctions, they made 10 billion more, but that's like incidental as in money. So money wise, Biden gave 6 billion and Obama, I think, gave 1.7 billion. Then people are like, oh, Obama gave 150 million because of the JCPOA, Iran made more money. And with Biden, they say, oh, because of his deal, they made about 50 billion. But in terms of actual cash, that's what it says on there. And so it seems like whatever Trump's going to give is going to be exponentially higher if you're going for even the smaller cash figure or the larger total figure, right? Or do you disagree, guys? Manko and Andy. Okay, let's go to Prashant. Prashant, jump in.
Yeah, thanks, Sule.
Yeah.
I really like the first thing when what Andy was saying, the first parts of what he was saying, and that is no deal, no deal. You can't deal with liars. Trump and Netanyahu are liars, have been liars for their whole existence as politicians. You can't make a deal with these guys. As far as I'm concerned, there's no deal until both of these guys are removed from office. Period. End of story. They have no business leading any country. Both of them. They're evil. Maybe give them amnesty for their crimes, but get them the hell out of office. No deal. You can't deal with liars. How many times do they have to go back on their word, lie, and bomb you after you've made a deal to understand that there is no dealing with these two devils? I'm with Haas. I think you need to get Haas on a YouTube interview and let him slow down and talk for an hour, because I agree with this about 90% of what Haas said. The only thing I disagree with what Haas said is because of my personal existence. There's better ways to be healthy than what he's talking about. And I live those. I don't talk about them. I don't write about them. I don't read about them in books. I live them. So I agree with 90% of what Haas said. You don't deal with devils. Over. Period. There's no fucking deal with these guys. Sorry about my language, but I'm over it. Get Haas on YouTube and have a conversation with him, a relaxed conversation, so he can relax when he's rested, because he made more sense than both of your first two interviews by 100%. I agreed with very little of your first two interviews today. Very little. Haas, yes. Because you know what, Suleiman, you got this new YouTube channel, Moral Resistance. You know what I heard that wasn't really said in what everything that Haas says? We've got to bring this world back to simple morality. And simple morality is you don't kill people. You don't go to war and kill people on lies. That's what Trump and Netanyahu have been doing. That's what Haas is saying. No more. No more. We need morality in the world, just like your channel says. And you don't get morality in the world until you remove murdering war criminals from office. And that's Trump and Netanyahu to start. Remove. No dealing with these devils. Sorry, I'm angry, so I'll stop now.
Yeah, because it just doesn't make sense, really. Because if you believe in morality, the ideal situation is you don't want to deal with a war situation. So you don't want to be basically in a situation where you're either murdering or being murdered. So if you believe in that, because there's disconnect with what's being presented here, because he's saying that there shouldn't be a deal, but if there's no deal, it means continue with the war. War means people are going to die, and by the end of the war, what happens? You're back to the deal in the first place. So I don't agree. I personally think that you should try and make a deal if it's possible. Now the problem is you can't make a deal with in a scenario where Israel is there. That's the whole point I'm trying to make. So you basically have Israel who's going to break the deal, and then you're going to be back in the situation. So that's why Iran's going to be trapped. In terms of treaty, I don't know what he said that you disagree with, because he was just presenting the different positions of all the different sides and the different mechanisms. He wasn't talking about his own feelings. It's just being academic and different positions. So I don't get what your issue with that was.
Yeah, I mean, my issue, I've calmed down a little, so hopefully I can talk a little calmer. My issue is sort of what I said, and maybe I'll say it in another way. You don't deal with devils. If I'm ready for Iran to go back to war and crush Israel. We don't need any more Israel in the world. I'm ready for Iran to go back to war and crush them. And I'm a peaceful man, but I would fight with Iran. I'm 76. I would fight with Iran, because none of this is going to change until the criminal leadership of Israel is eliminated. None of it's going to change. How many times have we been through this with Israel? Ever since 2001, at least, and probably before. So none of it is going to change until the criminal entity that is Israel is eliminated, period. Let those people create a new government that live there, the Jews and the Palestinians. Let all the Palestinians come back and vote like in a democracy. That's what we need. Israel is the problem, as is the U.S., because Israel wouldn't have done what they've done for the last 20 some years or longer without U.S., the criminals in the U.S. support. That's why I say no more.
So how did they eliminate US then?
No more until Trump is removed from office. And you know what I want to see?
But it's not just Trump, Biden and Obama were the same.
They were the same. I agree. And that's what I was just about to speak to. This agreement should have in. Okay, so maybe let Trump and Netanyahu off with amnesty for their war crimes. Any future president in any country that commits war crimes, immediately arrested and a minimum life in prison. Because none of this is going to change until the leaders pay for their crimes. That's why they keep committing them, because nobody punishes them. That's why it happens again and again. So that has to be in the agreement also, in my opinion. No more.
That's just unrealistic. That's not going to be in an agreement.
Well, I'm sorry, but I'm going to keep talking about it because nothing's going to change until that happens, Suleiman. Nothing is going to change.
No, you can talk about it.
Nothing is going to change until the criminals are punished. Nothing.
Yeah, no one disagrees. No one disagrees.
Okay, then we need to keep talking about that until it happens. I understand. I'm not stupid. I understand how difficult it is to make that happen. But nothing is going to change until that happens. So that's what we need to be talking about every day.
But the thing is, Trump being removed from office isn't going to happen from a deal. By the way, there's reports of some possible explosions in Keshem Island and Sarik as well. That's probably going to end up being on the Strait of Hormuz again. But the point I'm trying to make, I think we're conflating a lot of points, and this is why I try to be precise, and I know it upsets some people. There's no scenario. So should these people not be in power? We all agree. Can Iran make a deal where they're like, oh, guess what, Trump? Part of the deal is going to be you're no longer going to be in charge of America. That is just so unrealistic. It's never going to happen. In order to not have these people in power, it requires the American people to stand up against their own, stand up and basically fight against this tyranny that's happening in their own government. Now, the problem they've got is there's essentially in the United States of America at the moment no options, and so what you see is people, I've seen many people complain about the genocide and end up reverting back to type and supporting their own party, whether it's Democrat or Republican. So it's going to require the Americans. I mean, Iran can't force Americans to change their political class. That's going to be on the Americans. You can't say, oh, Iran, don't sign a deal until Trump's in there. I just think that bit's unrealistic, that Trump has to stand down as part of the deal. That's the bit where I'm trying to explain that this specific deal with Iran, that's where it is. And in terms of, you didn't explain that, what was the bit that you disagree with treated? That's the bit. I understand you keep telling me what you want, which is I don't disagree with. I think we disagree about the mode by which you're getting it, because I don't think Iran can have it in the deal. You think they can. Well, I'm asking what bit do you disagree with treated on? Because you might have said something I missed.
Well, I didn't listen to everything you said because I just wasn't that interested. I tried to.
So why would you say? Why did you? Look. So now you didn't listen to him because you weren't interested. That's fine. You don't need to be interested.
Exactly.
But then you can't be like, I disagreed with him, but I never listened to him.
No, I didn't say I never listened to him. I listened to him long enough to know that I didn't want to listen anymore because I didn't agree with what he said in the first part of the interview.
Which was what?
Not enough. Just like I said, not enough. We're normalizing evil, and if we normalize evil, we're failing our young people. No more of these deals where we normalize evil and make deals with criminals. I know that the United States has to remove their evil criminals. Like I said, I hope you understand that I know that. I'm doing everything I can by speaking the way I speak and by talking. I was on the phone yesterday with my senator from Hawaii. I didn't get to talk to him. I almost did. I had questions. I was going to tell him, no more on this deal, no more on the NDAA, no more war crimes. My senator said in the beginning of our call, he said that he wasn't for this war in Iran. That's a good sign because you know what? He's Jewish. He's a senator from Hawaii, U.S. senator from Hawaii. And the first thing he said on the conference call was, no more this NDAA. No, what did he say? He said, no more wars of choice. That's the first thing the guy said. So this Jewish man, who's my senator for many years, said no more wars of choice. He was against the Iran war. That's a good sign. And if I would have talked to him, you wouldn't be allowed to talk the way I'm talking to all of you because you don't get to talk that long. But if I could, I would say the same thing to that senator.
Someone has their mic on because there's an echo.
Sorry, somebody.
It was me. It was me. Go ahead, Prashant.
Yeah,
Is your senator against funding Israel?
I didn't get a chance to say if you ask him about that or not, but I asked him. He didn't say. I didn't get to talk to him. Okay, let me try to keep my mind straight. I didn't get to talk to him, but the first thing he said on the conference call: "No more wars of choice." He said, "This war is a war of choice, and we should not have more wars of choice like this. We should have wars only in defense." That translates into meaning we should only have wars of defense. So my senator said yesterday, "No more wars of choice." That's a very good thing. Like
Was he for the Ukrainian war?
That's a war of choice.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so no
but
more wars.
he's a Democrat.
That's what
Whose choice was it?
it was. War criminals' choice. War criminals that run the United States. That's whose choice it was.
Well, here's the thing, my friend.
Wait, we made Putin invade them?
No. Yeah, we
Yeah,
did.
yes, we did. We enticed them.
Let me answer
Yes,
that. We did because they were killing Russia. They were killing Russian citizens in the provinces next to Russia, and so Russia said, "No more killing our citizens." But there was a deal. The U.S. threw out the deal. There was a deal before.
And the CIA vassalized Ukraine. Come on, this is Jewish supremacy. Everybody knows it.
Yes. I
Right.
agree with that.
But getting back to the Iranian thing here, and I want to pose this as a question for Suleiman. I think that there is an advantage play for Israel. I mean, for Iran. I'm sorry, because every time they try to make a deal with the U.S., there's a rabid dog over there called Israel that's never going to make a deal with anybody. Their main export everywhere they go for a very long time is murder, is mass extermination of humans, is deracining their morals in the process. So if Iran makes a deal with the U.S., now this is what I'm looking for, and this is all I care about. Is there going to be daylight between the United States and Israel? That's it. Because right now they've been cucked by Israel. Right now, Jewish supremacy basically rules over the American body politic. And the question is, are we going to go down the tubes with Israel or not? So when they make a deal, when they make a purported deal with the United States and the rabid dog breaks that deal and attacks Lebanon or Iran or anywhere else, is the United States, every time the United States breaks the deal on behalf of the rabid dog, then we look more cut. Then they look more, obviously more chained to whatever Netanyahu. It really makes Trump look bad. It makes the Republican Party look at what the betting sites are saying now. They're saying that now the Republicans have a very good chance of losing the Senate and not just the House. And it really is the unpopularity of this war. So I do think and I'll pose this as a question to you, Suleiman. Don't you think that the one advantage that Iran has here is every time they try to make a deal just with the U.S. and then Israel breaks it, it becomes a moment where the U.S. loses more credibility and therefore their war efforts against Iran along with it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, but that's already happened. Another time it happened. So, like in this last engagement, US were like, we're not involved. And then now we found evidence that CENTCOM did help with Israel's attack on Iran. CENTCOM did help with defending Israel against Iran, even though Iran was successful in it. So, America looks already weak and, as they say, cooked to Israel. I mean, by making this agreement and just demonstrating it again, I guess you can do that, but I think the negative of that is more problematic. The negative being that I think it traps Iran, where they're going to have to allow Lebanon. In my view, they're going to end up letting South Lebanon continue to be bombed. I know Hoz is saying as soon as it happens, they're going to respond. I think he's wrong, but let's see what happens. I think it'll take something bigger to be able for them to respond, because we've seen it for the last. I mean, they've been bombing Lebanon since April, so 2 months. So it wasn't just for this specific deal, South Lebanon. So I don't think that there's that bit of utility is compared to trapping Iran. I think Iran's going to make a mistake by making this deal. Personally,
I think that Iran has to say that Lebanon is part of the deal because of just like for political reasons and stuff, so that they don't look like they abandoned Hezbollah. However, at some point, we are going to see the written deal be published with the signatures and everything. And there's not going to be any he said, she said about Iran state media saying this and the Trump administration saying that. It's going to be an objective document that we can all look at. And I guarantee you that the protection of Hezbollah is not going to be in the deal. I guarantee you that.
Wait. Now you're specifying it. Do you mean the protection of Hezbollah or the protection of Lebanon, as in Lebanon can't be
Yeah,
bombed?
South Lebanon, which is where Israel's fighting Hezbollah.
Okay, yeah. So you're saying there won't be a ceasefire in Lebanon is basically in the deal.
Yeah, it won't be part of the deal that Israel has to stop like attacking South Lebanon.
Well, again, you're specifying. I think what the deal will say is the war to end on all fronts, including Lebanon. Are you saying that bit's not going to be part of the deal?
Yeah, it won't say including Lebanon, something like that. And if it did, Israel wouldn't sign on to it for sure.
Well, this is the thing, because Israel is saying that they're not part of it as well. So
Yeah, and
Netanyahu
if
came
they're
out with a
not,
statement, right?
like if I'm in a lawsuit and it's like I'm suing you and Khaleesi, and then I settle with Khaleesi, and I put in my settlement with Khaleesi that Suleiman has to like pay me $20,000, you're gonna look at that and you're gonna be like, hey, I didn't sign that. I don't have to do anything.
True, because in this scenario, Israel is the boss of the United States of America. But the point is, America is negotiating on behalf. By the way, I agree with this. I mean, I don't agree with the first bit. I think Lebanon is going to be in there, and I think you're going to be wrong about that. But I think the other bit where US can't make Israel abide by the deal, I think that's what is going to happen once again. And it's going to show another weakness of the United States of America. But my concern is it's going to trap Iran personally. And let's see if I'm wrong, but I've not been wrong about anything I say. I
But
think it's
also,
not a smart move.
Suleiman, every time there's been a ceasefire with Israel, they're like, oh, there was a rocket attack, and then they just start again like a week or two later.
Yeah, Israel can make whatever excuse they want, but the point is there is going to be Israel bombing Lebanon. I don't see Israel not bombing Lebanon in the next 60 days. That's the bit that I find very difficult to believe. And I think that's what's going to essentially, well, look at the deals that they're making. So right now, sorry, I forgot what I was gonna say now. I ended up reading something else. But anyway, yeah, I think that they're gonna. It's a trap, because if you look at Gaza, there's a peace deal, but Israel bombs every single day, steals more land. You look at Lebanon from 2024 to 2026, there was a peace deal, but Israel bombed every single day. So I don't. I think a treater is right in the sense of, I think there's going to be certain things in the document that are a bit more vague, and then in those you'll probably come up and say, oh, guess what, Trump's got the Strait open and there's no toll, and Iran will use the same words and say, guess what, we're charging a fee. I think he's right about that, and I think his interview was actually a really good insight into what's going to happen. And the other what point was about so the sanctions relief. So the US has given the money, but they'll be like, oh, we didn't give the money, but they're just getting Qatar to give Iran the money, whatever this sanctioned amount is, and then they can all be like, yeah, we got our way. But in reality, Iran's getting money. So I think some of those things are going to be in the MOU as well, where there is this kind of way for both sides to say that. I think he's right about that bit.
Yeah, by the way, speaking of the money, I looked up the Obama administration stuff. So the initial money that this was all talking about, like frozen assets that were unfrozen so that Iran could have access to them again. So originally, Obama unfroze 11.9 billion before the JCPOA. And that was in early 2016 that they did that by. And then once they had the JCPOA, they unfroze an additional, and this is where it gets a little bit disputed. There are estimates that what was unfrozen, because they didn't know exactly where all the assets were, was up to $150 billion. And that became a meme, and Trump said it, and a lot of people that are Republicans said it. But that was just a high-end estimate. They didn't know that it was actually that much. And they actually thought it was about 100 billion. But not all of that was actually like liquid where they could move it. So the last statement they gave was that they believed that Iran was able to actually get 56 billion of it, even though a larger amount was unfrozen.
That was Obama, right? And Biden, how much was Biden?
Yeah, so then when Trump came in, he refroze assets because he threw everything Obama was doing out. So he refroze everything. He didn't let anything be unfrozen. And then when Biden came in, he came in with everything being refrozen, and he started to do some unfreezing again, but it wasn't very much. It looks like $6 billion that he first started unfreezing, and that caused like political backlash. So he stopped after that. He didn't go further.
But it was what, 6 billion, right?
Yeah, that's when he started. It says in September 2023, he unfroze $6 billion that were frozen in South Korean banks so that they could be transferred to Qatar to be transferred to Iran.
Yeah, okay. So Trump's gonna basically give more than Obama did, essentially. I'm sorry,
So
more than Biden did.
according to like the US officials that are talking to these various press outlets, they're saying that there's no upfront money, that the money comes once Iran does certain things. And then Iran is saying that there's upfront money and that they're going to get half of it before they even do anything else. So I guess we're going to see when the agreement actually comes out who's right about that.
Well, I think that it's going to end up being what Preeta said, where Iran's going to get the money, but it's like Qatar's giving them the money. So Qatar will be like, oh, we gave you 10 billion and we've got 10 billion of your money frozen. So we're not really giving the frozen money, but Iran gets the 10 billion. Do you know what I mean?
Well, and did you see the UAE has been paying protection money to Iran? And there's a bunch of reports saying that the UAE has already given Iran $3 billion. And that's why
Yeah.
Iran, when it started attacking a bunch of other countries, did not attack the UAE.
Yeah, and apparently UAE is giving Iran 10 billion more, and this is part of this frozen asset loop thing, where UAE is like, oh, we're giving you 10 billion, but really it's the frozen assets they're giving, but they're not saying it's the frozen assets. So either way, whatever you call it, Iran's getting a lot of money from these alleged countries that hold their frozen assets. Hassan, thanks for joining us. Hope you're doing well. What's your thoughts about what's going on in terms of the deal?
Hi, Suleiman. Hi, everyone on the space. Hope everyone's well. Yeah, I think what I would add to what's been said so far is that there is a need for a deal here on both sides, even on the Islamic Republic side, even if the outcome isn't exactly as the deal states. Um, you know, if there's some release of funds, if there's some relief somewhere, and even if there's some breaches, at the end of the day, the objectives of the republic are no different. They're not gonna stop supporting the Lebanese resistance. They're not gonna stop supporting the Palestinians, and they need that financial. You can't forget that they need that financial relief to be able to do that, and that is a priority for them because, like Treaty Parsi was saying, they need that forward defense, and they need to build back up the Lebanese resistance and the Palestinian resistance, and that all takes money. It takes time, and even if it's a partially met deal, they will need that. I think in order to move things forward, and this is a long-term strategy. You're trying to defeat an enemy. Let's not forget that Iran is the weaker party here in terms of economically and militarily and support-wise around the world. Material support, and so it's done very well to get to this stage, but it is suffering a lot from the situation, and so it does make sense. Now, whether a deal will happen or not, we'll see. I thought it would happen last time. I really thought it would. This time, it seems a bit more likely, but even then, I'm starting to doubt it, given past experience. And this is number 39, I think. So could be another few more. But look, this can't keep going on forever. At some point, I think there has to be some kind of deal. But remember, this deal is not like a permanent settlement. This is always a temporary settlement. It's a temporary settlement. Why? Because the fundamental issue hasn't been fixed of the Palestinian cause, the existence of this entity. These things. You can't just do a deal and then that's it. It's over, and everyone can go home happily ever after, because the entity is going to continue to reach its objectives, and the republic is there to build back up the resistance. And so this is always going to be a temporary thing, no matter what, whichever way you look at it. Now, the temporary might be 1 month, 6 months, it might be a year, I don't know, and there may be some clauses in there. And as we saw with the ceasefire, I know, Suleiman, you're worried about Iran being unable to respond because it signed a deal, but it did sign a ceasefire agreement, or it did make a ceasefire agreement with America, and it kept hitting them back, and it hit, during the ceasefire, it also hit this Jewish colony when it decided to launch a terrorist attack on Beirut. So it doesn't mean that just because it signed the deal that it's gonna stop its ability to respond, given that now it's increasing in its position.
But just on that, Hassan, so the original ceasefire deal, if you remember, Iran said Lebanon was part of the deal, Pakistan said Lebanon was part of the deal, and then Israel bombed Lebanon, and that didn't kill the deal. Iran stuck with the deal. So I'm saying that I think that may happen again. So do you get mine?
Yeah, so what I'm saying to you is the reason why they didn't respond isn't because they're necessarily abiding by the deal, because obviously they'll say in the deal that both sides have to respect the deal, and if one doesn't, then the other doesn't either, like something like that. But the reason it has to is because strategically it didn't have the ability to until now. So it was building after the 39-day war. It kept warning them, and it takes an approach, kind of a more long-term approach that okay, we'll gradually escalate, and then when it gets to when we need to act, we will act. Yes, sometimes we see that as being not like able to act in the same way that the entity or America acts, but it did act in the end. It did achieve something which was a big step change. So, for example, for the first time, it launched an attack on the Jewish colony without it being struck directly by it. So that was a step change, and it achieved that through this process. So in the same way, let's say this deal happens, which may be a good outcome, then even if it's breached and then in the future it's gonna like fall apart, then at that point there may be another step change. So I think that's its kind of prediction. It's not that it's gonna sign the deal, and it's not stupid. Iran isn't stupid enough to think that the deal's done and that's it, and we can live happily ever after. It's going to continue to support the resistance, continue to try to achieve its objective, and if it falls apart again, it's just going to make the situation for America, I think, even worse. So I don't think it's as simple as
I think
that.
Suleiman's making a good point here, which is that so Iran can say that Lebanon is part of the deal, but if Iran is not willing to blow up the deal over that, then it's not real. So if Iran puts it in the deal, but then Israel violates it, and Iran says, well, Israel, you're terrible, we condemn you, but then they're not willing to blow up the deal and start launching missiles at Israel over it, then that's effectively the same as it not being in the deal. And this is like how the law works and stuff too. If you and I have a contract and I break the contract in a certain way, but instead of you blowing up the contract, like let's say I'm supposed to sell you like blue donuts every day, and instead I start bringing you pink donuts. And if you keep accepting the donuts and you keep paying for them, well, now we have a different deal where now you're getting pink donuts and you accepted it. You can't like complain about that later. It basically modified the deal. So if Iran says we have to put Lebanon in there, but they're not willing to actually blow up the deal over it, then it's like they're not in there at all.
So I think the response will be, look, we'll maintain the other. If that happens, then look, what happened this time was that Iran hit the Jewish colony when it hit Beirut, right? And America didn't respond. So it argued that, okay, our ceasefire with
Wait,
America is still
America
on.
did respond. Well, what do you mean America didn't respond?
America didn't respond to the attack.
America helped them.
Yeah, they did, but they didn't. What I'm saying to you is they said they didn't respond directly, or they didn't help initially, and then like treaty parties were saying that afterwards they changed the story. But the point is, the shift was that, okay, this is kind of between you two now, even though we're kind of helping our side. Look, Iran is trying to incrementally break them apart. This is what its strategy is. Now, you may say it's a failed strategy, but you may also say that it's kind of succeeding because it wasn't a twin attack. It was it was Israel only at that time. and America supporting it rather than it being an open confrontation between them. And that's kind of what happened in the 12-day war, if you remember. So yes, we know that America supports it. Yes, we know it participates, but it's different when its full force is behind it with it as well. So my point is that incremental change could be that Iran knows full well it's going to go into ceasefire, that the Jewish colony was going to try and breach, and it's going to have a plan for that scenario. I don't think it's stupid enough to think there's no plan for the scenario. And also
Well, but the
remember,
thing
it's not.
is, so Iran
Yeah.
only intervened, they only responded when Israel bombed Beirut, but not Israel attacking South Lebanon, which they do constantly. But then after that whole blow up, Iran said, we're going to change our position. And now we're not going to let you attack South Lebanon either. And Israel was like, yeah, whatever, bro. And they just went, and like a half an hour later, they started attacking South Lebanon again. They just do it constantly. It's an ongoing thing. And then we were in here, we were like, well, what's Iran going to do? Are they going to respond? Are they going to attack? And then time passed and they did nothing. And I think that's what Suleiman's referring to.
Yeah, so I think the reason is because, like I said, these are incremental changes which take time to achieve. Like we are to get to the situation. I told you the objective, my perspective, and the reason why you can see the people in the colony going berserk is because how dare the Islamic Republic tell us who we can kill and when we can, when we can kill them. How
No,
dare
but
they
they're
even
not
get
going
involved with
berserk
that?
over that, Hassan. They're going berserk because Iran's won. Iran's got everything they demanded. That bit, I don't disagree. Look, Iran winning, no doubt. Trump's completely, as you mentioned, as you called it, a surrender document. It is a surrender document. That's not what I'm talking about. If you look at just what's in the deal, yeah, awesome. This is awesome, right? Perfect victory by Iran. Total Iranian victory, as I say. The bit that I'm talking about is, and if you can specifically answer this question, in the next, let's say the deal signed, and then 10 days later, or whatever days later, Israel bombs Lebanon. The first day a missile hits Lebanon, is Iran going to respond immediately?
So the answer to that question is that it may not answer, it may not respond
Exactly.
immediately, but it will eventually respond. That's
Exactly. And that's my
that's,
point.
but
So it
the
changes.
eventual response is where we want to get to. So what I'm saying to
Not
you is,
really.
well, hold on.
What's an eventual response? Like,
So
what do you mean by
let
that?
me explain.
Weeks,
Let me
months,
explain.
what?
So during this ceasefire breach, Iran stayed patient, and then it suddenly put this clause in, suddenly put this condition to Israel, saying, "Don't, if you strike Beirut, we'll strike you." That, to me, my reading of that is that Iran knew, and they know very well how this enemy works, that they were going to strike the Beirut, and they were planning to strike them. That's my reading of it, right? So what I'm saying to you is the next stage would be, okay, we'll have a ceasefire. Let them if they're going to start doing the same thing, we know what they're going to do, but at some point, maybe in a month, maybe in 6 weeks, world's going to get fed up with them, and everyone's going to fed up with them, and they know that if we close the strait, we're going to be in the same situation, and we're going to say to them, if you strike Beirut, if you strike any part of South Lebanon, we're going to hit you. So that's my reading of the strategy
Yeah,
here.
so you're proving my point. So the thing is, what you're basically saying, and by the way, 6 weeks, it won't be the world fed up with Israel. Everybody's already fed up with Israel. What's going to happen is everyone's going to turn on Iran because what they'll see this as betrayal. Because what you're basically saying is they're going to allow Iran to continue to be bombed for 6 weeks, and they're going to be patient about it and let the bombing continue. People in Lebanon are already struggling, dying, and they're going to remain patient about it. The vast majority of the world will see them as this as betrayal. It's like saying, it's like me jumping into a fight with you for you, and I start basically taking hits, and all my family's getting beat up, and then we get a deal, like Suleiman's in the deal, and then they continue to beat my family, and you're like, oh, I got to be patient about this. That's going to be unacceptable. And then you just prove my point that you do believe that Lebanon is going to be continued to allowed to be bombed.
Well, I'm just being realistic here. This is look at the situation
Yeah, it's
here. Iran is not.
unacceptable.
Well,
Totally
look.
unacceptable by
Hold
Iran.
on, hold on. Iran is not a superpower, right? Iran is
Well,
a
if they were
strong
not super,
country.
they shouldn't have got Lebanon to jump in and help them if they were not going to help them at the end.
No, but this is not my point. My point is that they're not. They have the means that they have to try to achieve the objective in the most efficient and important way, and in a way that actually can actually be achieved. So there is a strategy here, and the strategy is realistic given their limited means, their limited financial ability, and what they can do. Now, if the Islamic Republic goes too far, then it could be in a situation where it is so financially restrained. This is the kind of calculation they're thinking about. So financially restrained, it can't even, it's struggling to feed its own population, and then it won't even be able to provide any support to the resistance, and then they'll have no means to defend themselves, in their land. So what I'm saying to you is that when you were looking at it from these different angles, it's not so simple as they've proven with those strikes that they're willing to strike, they're willing to take hits as a result, and that's a big achievement from my perspective. But what it doesn't do is mean that it's a good idea necessarily to exhaust your means to the point where you can't materially support the resistance in future years, and that's what you have to take into account. Right now, I think the limitation on their support is a financial one. It's not a ideological one. It's not a willingness to not sacrifice. It's not any of these things. It's just a restriction on the means, the physical means to support them.
How is it financial? Explain the financial component of it.
So supplying weapons, supplying through, sending them through Syria. Some of them get caught. Some of them don't. They need the materials. They need
No, that's in terms of getting the weapons to the resistance. The resistance has weapons, and actually, what you're saying is, in your scenario, you're gonna just like let them fight it on their own. You're not gonna be involved.
No. I'm saying to you, financially, these groups, they need huge financial assistance to continue to sort to without Islamic Republic, there is no.
Yeah, this is like you're just making. I think you were arguing with Simon when he was making these points, but the point is, it's not financial. Financial is a factor, but the resistance in Lebanon continue to fight their fight, irrespective of it. Them FPV drones, for example, they're making cost hardly anything to produce. In reality, let's say so. For example, what you're basically saying is, in a week's time, Israel bombs South Lebanon and continues to bomb them. You're like, we need to save money to give you in the future. And you're like, yeah, but I'm getting bombed by people. But I'm going to give you in a month, don't worry, or 2 months. I think that's just unacceptable. Like,
No, I'm saying to you, it's
I
an
think
element
this
of the
honor and
calculation.
I think we come from this from different perspective. Like, you see this, you come at it from like more of a like, I get it. Some people are more from like this Iranian nationalist or Shia possessed perspective. I don't see things like that. I see it as like a moralistic duty. You basically, there's a commitment that's going on in the region where the Lebanese jumped into this war to support you, and you can't just let them continue to be hammered. I find that to be totally unacceptable. Like, yeah, you may lose out financially or whatever, but that's what it is.
I get what you're saying, and I agree to a
And
certain
I
extent.
think that's where our perspectives are different, because
Yeah.
I just see things as like a total overarching. I haven't got no loyalty to Iran. I've got no loyalty to
No,
Shiism. My loyalty is
no.
completely to morality, and I just see it as, and I'm just against Israel and
And
Zionism.
that moral claim is what makes it too expensive for Iran not to keep supporting Lebanon.
Yeah, they're gonna lose a spot.
Right.
Like in these 6 weeks, I guarantee you, a lot of the Sunnis who were supporting them will be like, I see, guys, they were just doing it for their own national interest.
Right.
They only wanted to make some money. That's it. They're getting their billions of dollars. They don't give a crap about. They're gonna sell out South Lebanon.
And
I said
Tucker
many people
I
did.
think,
Carlson and,
As you know, many people did say that they were gonna sell out Hezbollah, and I said they won't.
but no,
You're
but so
kind of saying
hang
that.
on. Hold on. There's a difference between. I believe there is a moral thing right from the top of the leadership to the bottom. That is they see it as a religious duty. Absolutely, and whether you're Sunni or Shia or Christian or whatever, they want to support the oppressed. That is part of their policy. But what I'm saying to you is the disagreement here isn't on the principle of it; it's the means, the mechanism by which you deliver that support. You're saying the support should be that you attack directly regardless of the cost. The other side will say, no, we need to be able to sustain this for the long term, and it's a strategic decision. It's not a moral decision. The moral decision is, I am going to support the resistance
What financial
regardless of the cost.
cost? No, this doesn't make sense. This is what financial cost is there for Iran, where you basically have it where the entity, as you call it, bombs South Lebanon, and as soon as they bomb, you say, look, every time they bomb South Lebanon, we're gonna send missiles. We're gonna strike them with missiles every single time, and you create a deterrent. Those missiles, Iran's been producing in mass numbers. They've been producing these drones in mass numbers They've created a huge arsenal. Iran in themselves are saying that they've gone over 100%. They've created 125%. This was about a month ago, so now it's even more. Or what they got. So where's the cost coming in? You're just sending missiles. You're just hitting Israel with missiles that they're now hitting Lebanon with.
But like I said, like if you so the the cost isn't just the use of the missiles, what happens in response as well, right? Like let's not
What's the
forget that
response? Explain that.
like
What happens? As in
Like
Israel bombs you?
so Iran, how much material damage has it suffered over the last 60 days? What's the
Quite.
cost? Quite a lot, right?
Well, since the whole war, quite a lot, yeah.
Yeah, so we're talking hundreds of billions, right, of damage.
You keep talking about money. It's like I've got you used to get angry with people when they talk about money, but anyway, the cost of a lot of money, yeah.
No, but the damage indicates that the country is suffering and it needs to provide food for its people so that it can continue to support the resistance.
Same with South Lebanon, but you're saying
Yes,
you're gonna leave them for 6 weeks.
No, but my point is, look, my point is this: their calculation is what is the most effective way to deliver the result. Now, what I'm arguing, my argument is very simple. It's not the moral, is the method, right?
No, it is the moral.
So you want an immediate. What you're saying is it has to be an immediate response every single time. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes, you basically have a deal, and it's like, guess what? This country, South Lebanon, the people in Lebanon have stood for you. They basically sacrificed their country for you. You're talking about the money cost in Iran. What about the money cost in Lebanon? You're talking about the Iranian people suffering. The Lebanese people are suffering and starving, and the reason they're doing it is because they jumped into this war to help you, Iran. And then what you're saying now is, moralistically, in your moral compass, we're going to let them continue to be hit because we'll provide them with some weapons in the future or even now. No, it should be a deterrent. Look, same as what they did with Beirut. Do not strike Lebanon. This is part of the deal. If they strike Lebanon, each time they do, we will strike them. You have put that as part of the deal and say, look, this is the deal. We don't, and that's how you're able to.
As I said to you, I agree.
And that's how you're able to.
I don't think I'm disagreeing with you. I'm just talking on the timescales. You're saying you want them instantly to do that. I'm saying that the calculation is they need to do that at the time when.
Timescale is very important. Timescale is what the moral part of it is. If you're
well, we've kind of had Gaza genocide for 2 years, right?
If you're like, guess what? I'm going to wait 6 weeks so you all can be murked and you can stay starving and more people of you can die and more people of you can have to be abandoned, and while Israel continues to carpet bomb the country, and I'm going to wait 6 weeks, I think that is an important part of the moralistic framework. Timescale is important.
Yeah, and Tucker Carlson has made this exact point. The reason why that public opinion is turning favorably towards Iran is because Iran is viewed in that region as the only country fighting for the oppressed all across the region. You don't want to give that up. You keep talking about the expense of helping the Lebanese. You cannot afford, if we want to speak in expense terms, not to help them. You have to help them because that.
What if there's no money? What if there's no money to help them? This is my point.
The idea that the difference in money and no money is the difference here. I'm sorry, but I just don't believe that. You're fighting part of survival.
This guy was arguing with someone who said it's all about money, and now he's like, money, and it's not even money. You don't need money for the missiles. Right. Missiles you could strike.
Absolutely. And the point is, again, you can't afford not to do this. This, Sun Tzu even understood the moral implication and the public will behind it. If you're viewed, and this is what's happening more and more and more, the American government in Israel is being viewed as straight out evil, and for Iran to be coming and in defense of all the people, especially Gaza, that Tucker's right about that. Those children buried beneath the rubble in Gaza.
By the way, David, I was very critical of the Islamic Republic. Yeah, if you remember, in the early days, that it wasn't acting. I was actually very critical. By the way, I'm not necessarily saying that this is absolutely the right thing to do, but I'm just saying that this is the thinking, right? This is different.
Let me ask you a question, right? When you say that they may not have money, my question to you is, 4 decades of sanctions, and they had the money to support not only Lebanon's resistance, but Gaza, Palestine's resistance, all the resistance, right? And the Houthis. Now, when they literally have control of the Strait of Hormuz, they're charging some ships. They've had 20 billion payment from the UAE. All of this is happening. You're saying they may not have money. Like, how does that work?
So the economic blockade works both ways, right? It's not just one sided. It's not Iran blockading the world and Iran doing whatever wants, not suffering any damage in return. It's not like Iran was under sanctions and now it's under a blockade, and none of its oil is going out through the strait either. So it's a two-way blockade, right? So both sides are suffering. But the reason that there's Iran's ability to absorb that pain is obviously more significant, is much higher. Its pain threshold is higher, and that's why it's being able to keep going and say, "All right, we'll outlast you." Okay, but that doesn't mean that it does not have a shortage of money. It does not mean that it's not in serious economic turmoil. And serious economic turmoil brings about many consequences internally in a country, and shortage of resources, shortage of where you divert your resources, prioritize, etc. It makes it more complex. And I'm just trying to explain to people that these considerations are things that we are not privy to, and they have an implication in terms of the strategy of when to do when to do the thing that you want to do. If Iran, and I was very critical of Iran, by the way, at the start of this, saying that they weren't in war mode and then this war was coming. Yeah, if you remember 2 years ago. So I was always when I'm not somebody who doesn't criticize when the criticism is due. Although I have huge respect for Iran, and I'm telling the point that we're saying is that Iran's the only one that's standing up for them. We should maybe soften our criticism with
Yeah,
them
but the
towards
problem
them
is with what you're
sometimes, because
saying, it's not going to look less like that if this happens where Israel's allowed to bomb Lebanon and they're like, we've got to be patient for 6 weeks. It's actually going to look less.
I don't know,
No,
Alex.
I'll tell you.
I'm saying
Look, I know because you see it from a very like Shia lens. I'm telling you what a normal average people will see who aren't Shia. The way they'll see.
what's Shia lens about it? What's Shia lens about
I
it?
think there is a bit of loyalty there. The what an average normal person will see is, in the end, Iran has just done things for their own national interests. That they've managed to accumulate a huge amount of money. They've obviously got their sanctions off. They've got this. They've got that. Now, I don't think Iran's doing that. I mean, I don't think they're doing that. And I think this is why I'm saying the trap. This is what the trap is. If Iran has basically been doing for the last 5 months, essentially caring about what the world says, putting effort into this campaign of presenting themselves as the guys who are fighting for justice and fighting against oppression. It's worked because that's what they've been doing. The whole world has been on their side. People who hated them right now, I know, are very much on their side. People who are extremely sectarian are on their side. But you do have people who have been saying, very extreme minority whose voices will grow, who have been saying Iran don't care about nobody, they only care about their own nationalist interests, and as long as their country gets sorted, they don't give a damn about anybody else. And if this happens, what you're saying, I guarantee you, you'll see the narrative change completely. People will turn on Iran, where they will see it as, yeah, Iran's got 20 billion just now from UAE, another 30 billion from this country. Trump's giving them another 20 billion. They've got money from the Strait of Hormuz. They're making bag, yeah, that's awesome. They're getting to get investment from the United States of America, allegedly. Oh, they're getting all this bag. And yeah, I mean, people in Lebanon are dying, people in all these other countries are dying. And so I think that's where I'm saying it's a trap. It's a huge, terrible decision. I hope the Iranians understand that there is a horrible decision, because I know what the impact's going to be. It's going to be very negative. As someone who knows how human psychology
Yeah.
works, someone who knows how campaigns in the sense of how to really impact people's thoughts and processes and perspectives, I know how this is going to impact if what you're saying ends up happening.
So I think you have is a fair criticism of the Islamic Republic, by the way, to say that they have a nationalist inclination. That is a very fair criticism.
No,
And
but
that
I don't think they do.
in many
This is the
cases,
point. If that was the case, I would not be supporting them. Like, I don't know. If it was just, I'm not a guy who believes in, like, oh, Mike, I'm going to support Iran just because I'm not Iranian. So it's not a nationalistic interest for me. For me, it's purely in anti-oppression, anti-Zionist interest. Now, if this country's whole play was just to make bags for themselves, then, we probably wouldn't have, been supporting them as much as we are, in the sense of, because we thought, yes, they're fighting against Zionism, there could be the end of it, all these kind of things. If it was all about just making nationalistic interest, that's a huge problem for everyone. I think there's hardly any
no. I
Iranians,
think you
actually, there's
missed
no
it.
Iranians on the stage right now. None of them are supporting Iran because they're Iranians.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying to you is that it's normal for a country to put its national interest first, insofar as it doesn't, for example, breach certain moral principles, like, for example, not supporting the oppressed, like or oppressing others, or it sets some red lines for it, but it will look after its national interest, because it's a nation state, basically. That's the world we live in. So from that perspective, there is an element of nationalism that exists in Iran, which can be criticized, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have a policy and a moral obligation that's put on itself that will support the resistance groups and anyone who's oppressed. But it won't. But its first obligation it sees as, and this is the way that the countries operate, is to sees that as to meet the minimum level required for its country. That's what my argument is. It doesn't mean that it's, and it is still the only, despite that, the only country that's actually putting its neck on the line and sacrificing a lot for the resistance for Palestine. So it's doing these things, yes, but it still sees an obligation to provide some minimum level for its country, and that's my point.
Sulaiman, let me say this with regards to the question you posed. I see where Hassan is coming from, but I want to say a couple of things here. The public opinion, the global public opinion. If for instance, if Israel attacks Lebanon after the signing of the deal, and Iran waits the 6 weeks or 2 months or whatever, people tend to forget, So people are going to look at it as as Iran is being, attacking, not retaliating to that aggression done by Israel. So because Israel kind of like owns the media, so they can do that propaganda that we've been attacked. Not that we have attacked first and Iran is retaliating. If Iran waits a long time, before it retaliates. So, it's the public opinion. With regards to money, and the cost of retaliating, if that happens, if you guys remember during the 12-day war, Iran, if I'm not mistaken, the missiles that it launched was made in 2012. So it was like, missiles, that old stockpile of missiles that that had already spent the money on. So, yes, money is important, and I agree with you, Hassan. Money is important, but the morals and supporting the people of faith is far more important, is what I'm trying to say. But what do you guys think?
I agree with that.
Yeah, what do you guys think of with these negotiations? Why not go through the UN Security Council? Why not have the Security Council just like they did in the JCPOA? Although the JCPOA was endorsed, the UN Security Council endorsed that deal. Why, since Iran has kind of like the upper hand now, why can't they test the U.S. and say, let's go to the UN Security Council and place it under Article 7, for instance, right? And let's see who vetoes it, and then there would be either a good solid deal or no deal. And if Israel opts out, doesn't want to be part of that deal, that puts it as a rogue state.
Yeah, I think the UN Security Council have no teeth, and they're just a manipulative body that is there to hide the crimes of Israel. Koala, jump in with your thoughts. Go ahead, jump in.
Thank you, Sully. I was actually the discussion got a bit derailed, but
Well,
let me
don't
make a
derail the
little.
conversation. If you're going to talk about something else, you can come back later.
No. It was about the ceasefire.
Okay,
We were
yeah.
talking about that earlier, but then we start talking. Sorry about the memorandum and the deal. But just two things that I've been thinking about. The first thing is that I do believe that resistance has its own military objectives. And the reason why Iran did not attack Israel from when it was attacking South Lebanon, I believe myself that it was on the request of Hezbollah, because that would put Hezbollah on a halt. in a situation where they were doing a lot of damage to the IDF. But that's just a little thought. But about this deal, I mean, because you said earlier that you don't believe that Israel will respect it, and I totally agree with you. But maybe not that they would actually, send missiles. They still do have a lot of assets in Syria, in Kurdish areas, and also they have built up quite a big of assets in Lebanon itself. So what I'm worried about is that they will agree to this deal, but they will activate these assets and would officially not be Israel. So in southern Lebanon, the worry is about they will create a similar SLA force in the south with a mandate from the Lebanese treacherous government. So I still think they have cards to play, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts about that because they do have a lot of assets left.
You're talking about the Israelis?
Yeah, exactly, and the Americans, of course.
Yeah, it's possible. But I think a lot of them are a bit. Yeah, anything's possible, of course. For them to get paid mercenaries isn't a surprise whatsoever. So yeah, all those things are possible for sure. Joe, what's your thoughts about the discussion we were having?
Yeah, look, I came in a little bit late, but I don't think this is a done deal, because you have Israel, right? And whether that's on purpose or not on purpose, or Israel's subvertive or a weapon of America, it doesn't matter. I don't think this is a done deal. When does Israel honor ceasefires? Right? Isn't the current war in Lebanon being done on a ceasefire? Literally, it was a ceasefire that this war started on. So, I really don't think it's done. And I wish for the Iranian people that they would get some release. But I don't think it is. And that's, you know, I guess one day we'll find out why. I know you have your thoughts and I have mine. But we'll see.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna end. I don't think it's gonna end either. But I think there will be a ceasefire though. I did say that right because I think they need to bridge the time up until a certain point, and then maybe something may happen.
Like temporarily for like a few days. Yeah, I agree. It won't be long before it starts back up.
Oh, how long do you think?
I don't know. A lot of people are giving a lot of importance to the World Cup, and I can see why it's important for America, because you're already on a global stage. You don't want more attention to interrupt that. That's people. You can anger people really, really quickly. But we'll see. I don't know. I don't know how long Israel can temper itself. Normally, it doesn't last more than a week, 2 weeks. So
Especially because they're getting dominated on the ground. And so if they're getting dominated on the ground, I think the chances of them bombing in the air and killing more people is very, very highly likely. Manko, what's your kind
Solomon,
of
sorry. What's the situation for the Strait
so
with these?
so I'll tell you what both sides are saying, and then I think Treater made an interesting point about what it could be. So and actually it wasn't Treater, it was me. So definitely a great point actually then. The Americans are saying there's no toll. Iran's saying there's going to be a fee, as in an environmental fee, not a toll. So I think there's going to be a charge, and America will say, "Oh, it was open," and Iran will say, "We're charging a fee," and I think we'll kind of stay in this thing where both sides will say they won.
Yeah, look, there is no toll. They're not charging a toll. They're charging an environmental fee. So.
Yeah, but I think the Americans are going to deny even the fact that the environmental fee is being charged. And I do agree with Treater that some of the language in the document is going to be a bit more vague to allow both sides to say they won. But in the end, there will be a fee charged, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious what happens because I think a lot of the LNG reserves are starting to get low.
So I'm very curious what happens to prices here.
Yeah, I mean, you thought the blockade was staying, isn't it? So you actually don't think there'll be a deal, right?
Yeah, I don't think there'll be a deal. I just don't. I don't think America wants gas prices above 90. It wants it right below 90. That's what it feels like to me. Based
Sorry?
on, it feels like U.S. wants LNG prices below 90. Right? Or sorry, barrel of oil below 90. Because every time it goes above 90 to like 94, 95, there's always a tweet from Trump that tries to de-escalate. And then we get to 97. When it gets to 82, then things are aggressive again.
But I'm guessing if the Strait opens for 60 days, it's going to be a massive drop of prices, right?
Yeah,
Initially.
which I don't think America wants, if I'm correct.
So you don't believe this deal is going to go through then, right?
I believe the deal is going to go through. I don't believe the Strait will be completely open. I believe people will say they're not paying the fee, and so the Strait won't be completely. It won't be.
Well, they're
the
saying it's
flow
going
of
to take
before.
about 30 days to get to normal traffic.
Yeah. Okay, so the time for the World Cup, basically.
Well, the World Cup's 6 weeks, so the 60 days is probably the more accurate amount to try and get over the World Cup. Because the deal's going to be 60 days, but apparently part of the deal is that traffic needs to get back to normal on the Strait by like day 30, essentially.
Yeah, let's see.
And by the way, we're
And
just speculating on what the deal is.
I don't
This is
think
coming from different
international people understand how little Americans care about soccer. Like the World Cup is such a non-event here.
Yeah, it's not about the World Cup. It's not about the actual event. I know Americans are done, and by the way, it's called football, Manco. Your own president said that you should rename American football. So please respect Trump if you're going to call yourself MAGA. But in terms of no, so Manco, it's not about the actual event. I agree that Americans are not that much into football. It's more the cost. Like, why did America bid to have host the World Cup? They bid it for it because they thought there's going to be some kind of benefit, unless you're saying they're completely stupid. But they bid on it, but in order to host and they spent a lot of money to do so, because the aim is that it boosts tourism, it presents your country in a positive light, and they get all the benefits that comes from that. Now, are they willing to sacrifice all of that for Israel? Maybe, but it seems like maybe they want to try and benefit from the World Cup and the positive tourism that's going to come from it, and the kind of positive outlook that comes out from it normally, although the first day is not great for them, but since then it's not been too bad. So that's the reason why he would care about it, and that's why FIFA gave him a prize and he was doing a big drama about football. So it's less about the game but more about it being an event that is hosted by America, and America is presented to the world as some kind of like tourist spot throughout different areas in America. Does that make sense?
And
Yeah, real quick, I just
there's
looked.
63
Is it
million
actually
soccer fans.
American? Because I just looked to see who the host of the World Cup whatever is, and it looks like it's in the United States, Mexico, and Canada. Is that right?
But yeah, that's right. But I think most of the games will be, because they have like a main host, and then the bees like few other countries will host a few more, like some of them games.
The finals in Texas, and it is the only stadium hosting 3 games, and the hotels have not been booked out because they decided to go from $3 a night room to $30,000 a night rooms, thinking they could
Oh
gouge
my
people.
God! Why are Americans gorging? It's like it's like we're in Egypt or Jordan. Bloody hell, bro! What is going on? I thought they had a bit more class than that. Oh my God! What is wrong? These guys need to learn from the Japanese and the South Koreans.
And
Okay,
by the
I'm
way,
glad I got.
Joa, the final is actually in New Jersey. It's not in Texas.
Oh my God! I thought this guy's coming to defend Lebanon. He's
Oh,
there.
then
Come up
it's
to
the
defend
stadium.
Jersey.
It's the only stadium has 3 games. Then maybe I'm confusing the two.
Oh my God! I thought this guy's coming up to defend Lebanon. This guy's come up to defend Jersey. What is wrong with you, blood? He's from South Lebanon. I thought he's gonna come in and be like, listen, blah blah blah. He's like, Joe, the finals in Jersey, blood. What?
This is we gotta keep correcting Joa. That's the problem.
Oh my God!
Yeah, he
But
comes to
Hussein, I
defend
don't know
the
if you had our
Giant
discussion.
Stadium, which is the worst stadium in all of America. But okay.
We'll all defend South Lebanon.
So Hussein, I don't know if you had our discussion about Lebanon. Did you hear it?
In and out. I was at the gym. Honestly, it was really loud. I got kind of like some bits and pieces of it. It
Yeah,
was
what's your
about
thoughts about it? This whole idea about basically if Lebanon's included in the deal and then Israel bombs Lebanon and then Iran doesn't respond, what would be your thoughts on that?
yeah. I have kind of like a little bit of a different opinion from a typical Shia. And you were right when you said that we do have a lot of faith in the Iranians. The Shia do at least essentially, but if that was to happen, honestly, I don't know anything about this like 6 week 2 month thing. Like, if there's a strike on Lebanon after the ceasefire has been agreed to and all that, I think that should be all, like the deal should be broken completely. And how they react is, I have faith in them that they'll hold up to their word. But if they don't, and they allow Lebanon to continue getting hit for however many times, honestly, it would not be a good look. And I'm just going to be straight up honest with everybody. Like, it just really honestly wouldn't be a good look. Um, I would still have faith that they would get it together, but if you look at it like from the outside looking in, it's obviously not a good look if they're allowing it. If they're saying that, the ceasefire is complete, if you strike Lebanon after this, we're going to have to hit you, and they don't do anything about it, then yeah, I mean, I definitely would not like
To
that for
me, it would
sure.
be almost as bad as being in Suleiman's space and not reposting it.
Yeah, David, probably. But I mean, like I said, as far as like that specific question, so yeah, I definitely would not like that. I mean, look, I've been already trying to plan my trip to go back to South Lebanon to go see my village, whatever's left of it at least. And so we obviously need the ceasefire to kick in.
So, just to give you an example of what the thought process is of some people in the Lebanon. So, this is a guy he's got a huge account. He's a young kid, so he can get emotional. But I think he's from South Lebanon. But if he's not, he's definitely from Lebanon. And he says this, and I think it's important because I do think that this is the perspective, like if we're not in an echo chamber. He says, if this war, and I disagree with some of what he's saying, but if this actually war ends, well, you can't write very well, but anyway, if this actually war ends for Iran and they go back to normal, but Israel continues to murder our people in Lebanon and occupy our land, Hezbollah should wrap it up and hand its arms to the Lebanese military. Lebanese people are tired of being pawns in some greater pseudo-theological cause. If you haven't noticed, and this guy, don't get me wrong, like I disagree with him. I think he's not very smart, but the thing is, he's not someone who's pro-Israel. He's anti-Israel. He said, if you haven't noticed, the more you wage war on the Israelis, the more land we lose, the more of our people they murder, and the stronger their military gets. This is a clear line between rightful resistance and recklessly dragging an entire country into war. Apology in advance to whoever gets offended. I don't mean it in a bad way. All I ever wanted was for my people to stop getting murdered in wars. So this is like a guy, and as example, why I'm reading this post is, and I don't like this, like I think he's a bit childish or whatever. But the thing is, the reason I'm reading it is because that's an example of someone who was very pro-resistance and now would be someone as an example who would lose hope if something like that happened. But Hussein, you were laughing at that, so you don't agree with him?
No, not even a little bit. I mean, the whole reason why the South or even Lebanon in general hasn't lost any part of its territory is because of the resistance. So to say that the resistance just pack it up and give it to the Lebanese army, the weak under paid Lebanese army who still have propellers on their airplanes, by the way, like that's how old their air force is. Like, to give it to them for what? So they could just allow Israel to do whatever they want? No, this is the dumbest this is the dumbest post I've ever heard in my entire life. The entire reason why Lebanon is even sovereign or even is Lebanon is because of the resistance. Period. Well, whoever that kid is, Sully doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, it's yeah, I'm with you. I don't think he makes sense, but the point I'm trying to make is the overarching point I'm trying to make from this is that this is essentially how many people in Lebanon will feel. That look, this, because some people like they will be feeling like, okay, this is betrayal. Like we should just pack up and just leave it. Like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? There will be a large contingent of people who think like that. Like you're from South Lebanon, right? Now, there is a large number of people of South Lebanon who in their mind, is like, we're going to continue fighting till the end, right? But there is a huge number of people who have been displaced, who have basically been killed, who are struggling to even get a meal because of this. Like, there is going to be a lot of people who are going to start getting frustrated if there is a deal between Iran and the US and Israel continues to bomb them?
Yeah, honestly, I respect your opinion. I wouldn't say a large part of Lebanon would say that. I would say, yeah, you're gonna have some outliers here and there. But who has taken the most punishment out of all of parts of Lebanon? It's the South, right? It's the Christians in the South. It's the Muslims in the South, right? They're the ones who have taken the brunt of all of this.
True.
And so if if we're talking about and I'm not saying this to downgrade anything like whatsoever, but Beirut has been hit, but compared to the South, they're not going through anything. And I'm telling you right this now from as a Lebanese, a full Lebanese, and I cherished Beirut as much as I cherish the South, but they have not even tasted 10% of what the South has tasted. And so like to say that that these people are going to start crying about, oh well, that just means really they have no kind of patriotism to their country, and if they really really want their
Well,
country to.
the thing won't be about patriotism to the country. What they're going to argue, what they're going to be told is, it's not you should have patriotism to your country, but you shouldn't have patriotism towards
Yeah,
Iran
but
because
not
Iran's.
under somebody's not under Israeli foot though. So is what I'm trying to
Yeah,
say.
but I'm saying the other side will be saying that you also shouldn't have patriotism. You shouldn't have a hope for Iran. This is what if this is what the Zionists will be saying. I guarantee you, within the country. I know because I know quite a lot of them in terms of like Lebanese Zionists, and they'll be saying, "Wait, when the time came about it, Iran didn't basically stand up for you. So like, it's time to look for Lebanon internally, solve our issue internally, as opposed to hope that Iran's going to help you." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But again, I wouldn't say the majority would say that. Yeah, you're right. There are going to be some
Well,
outliers
it
who.
won't be a majority, of course, but it will be a amplified voice that'll continue to grow if that happens.
I still honestly don't believe that, to be honest. But it's gonna kind of be like the monarchs in Iran trying to look for a revolution in that kind of sense. It's just not gonna really go anywhere, to be honest. But yeah, there will be some voices, and maybe it'll be propagated by like the Zionist propaganda. They'll try to put it up on more mainstream and say, "Oh, look, well here's the majority of Lebanese want this to end," and the Iranian involvement in Lebanon, they want them to end and whatnot. They'll probably like propagate that and magnify it, but it'll be a complete minority and it won't go anywhere.
Yeah, I think there is a huge concern about this, and I hope Iran's, and I do think Iran's going to be trapped by this. I think this is why I don't think Iran should sign the deal. I think it is a big trap for them, and I think they're about to fall into that trap personally. But let's see.
Sonny, let me ask you. So I'm sorry if you wanted to continue, you can go
No,
ahead.
no,
But
go ahead, Fred.
I just wanted to ask you, and because I was listening in and I was getting bits and pieces of the space because where I was at was really loud. But so when it comes to Lebanon and the resistance in Palestine, what was the exact agreement on that Iran supposedly agreed to?
That basically they are included in the ceasefire, that there should be no attacks of any of those countries.
Right, and then I read somewhere that there's a timetable that the Israelis have to withdraw from the south. Am I right?
Yeah, I've not seen the timetable, but I know that the resistance leader, Hezbollah leader, did say that there is an agreement for Israel to retreat from the land.
Okay, yeah, and this has been also like the Iranians have actually said this is what it is, right? This is what the deal, that Trump's not lying, and this is what it is.
Trump's not said anything, but the Iranians have said that it's the deal. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to get some clarification on
But
that.
the conversations about the fact that, let's say this deal is initiated, and then they sign it, then what happens as soon as Netanyahu breaks the deal is what we were talking about. That's the kind of thing that we were speaking about, not whether Lebanon is included in there or not.
Yeah, I just wanted to see what like the exact wording was because they'll play with that. Well, it's a ceasefire, but it wasn't a withdrawal agreement and whatnot. So it just all right, cool. I just wanted to get clarification.
Yeah. Let's see what happens. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately. I think we're going to know very soon. I think we're all going to see the MOU. But I do think that I agree with Trita that the MOU will be written in such a way that both sides will be like, "Oh, we got what we want." So we'll have to actually see like what's effectuated. Manco, in terms of from your perspective, because you're very much pro, you know, the other side. What's I mean, if this deal is true in terms of all the different bits, I'm guessing you're going to be quite disappointed, right?
Well, there's a 0% chance that the Iranian state media claims about what's in the deal are going to end up being correct. I mean, maybe it won't be exactly what the US government is saying to the press over here, but it's going to be a lot closer to that than it is going to be to whatever like the Iranians are saying.
So
That's my position on it.
let's take each element, right? So the unfreezing of assets, you think that there's not going to be any unfreezing of assets, or what do you think's happening with that?
So not up front. What the people, I think JD Vance said this as well, and also various government officials have said this to different press outlets that have published stories on it. They've all been very consistent that the unfreezing of assets is something that happens much later after Iran actually performs. So like if it actually does the particular thing down the road, then they get rewarded for that with some of the assets being unfrozen. Not that they get it up front and not that they get it just to talk, which would be extraordinarily like weak and stupid for the United States to agree to anything like that. And it would make them look very, very bad. And so,
What
yeah,
about
I
if
don't think they actually agree to that.
no, but what about if one of these other countries gives it to Iran, like Qatar or UAE?
Well, that's not really like up to us. Like UAE, I don't think it's a good thing that UAE is effectively, paying protection money to Iran. But if it's the UAE's money, we would have
So
to
the mechanism
make
is
a big
this.
fuss to them.
So you're mixing up two different things. So one is the UAE possibly giving money to Iran and agreeing to the fact that Iran won't hit them. The separate thing is that these countries are initiating a transfer of, remember, these frozen assets aren't largely in the United States of America, they're in these other countries. So, for example, let's say there's 12 billion in the UAE of Iranian assets, which I think there was last time I checked, but I could have the number wrong. So, if UAE gives Iran 12 billion, you're going to be like, oh, guess what? They didn't get the frozen assets. But we all know that the reason the UAE gave the 12 billion is for the assets. They just didn't physically unfreeze the assets and give it. They've almost done it as a replacement. So America can say we didn't give the unfrozen assets, but really they gave it. Does that make sense?
I mean, if that actually happened, I would be very opposed to it. I don't think at this point there's a reason to believe that it happened. That's essentially taking the view that Trump is going to defraud the American people and say, well, we didn't unfreeze the assets, but actually he did unfreeze the assets. He's just claiming that like some third party did it. But the fact of the matter is, like, so there's a lot of money that's frozen in Qatar, for example. The reason it's frozen is based on US sanctions laws. And if those countries violate the US sanction laws, they get punished through their banking system and through things that the United States Treasury Department does automatically as a result of those violations. So the only way that they could actually start releasing a lot of money to Iran, if they did it without US permission, it would trigger punishment on them. So if they do it and they don't get punished,
I agree with you.
it
I think the
means
only
that the US agreed with it.
you're proving my point there. That in the sense of you're adding to my point that there won't be a scenario where the UAE or Qatar do this autonomously without Trump's permission. This will be with Trump's rubber stamp. That's the only way it happens because, as you said, they could get sanctioned if they were to
Well,
do
yeah,
that.
if they don't get punished for it, then it means that the US was complicit in it.
Exactly. Now, the other thing is sanctions relief. Iran is claiming that the US is going to remove sanctions on them in terms of energy. We know that the Americans did this in the first 2 months of the war anyway. So do you think how do you view that?
Yeah, what I read, and this is coming from US officials, is that there's going to be a temporary trial period like what they did with Russia, where they suspended the sanctions on Russia for like 30 days or 60 days or whatever. to relieve oil prices, that they're going to do that for Iran, where Iranian oil is not going to be sanctioned for a period of time. And if a deal is not made within that period of time, then the sanctions go back into place.
Yeah,
That's what
so
it sounds like.
yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's the sanctions released for 60 days, or during the 60-day period. This is what the deal is. So how do you view that? Do you see that as a good thing or a bad thing? Because that means Iran's going to make a lot of money.
Well, what Iran will make is the difference between what China was paying and what other people would pay, right? So they'll make more than they otherwise would, but at the same time, overall oil prices are going to go down as a result. So I don't see it as being that big of a deal. I don't think it's really like if they just took it off
It's not
completely,
just oil,
then
man.
that would
It's
be,
not just oil.
hold on, if they
It's
took it
not
off
just oil.
completely, okay, stop interrupting. If they took it off completely, I would say that's weak because you're not getting anything for it in the negotiation. But if they're doing it temporarily and using it as a bargaining chip, then I think that's perfectly fine.
Okay, cool. And yeah, I think that removing the sanctions means that they can sell it for. It's not just that they can sell it for the extra amount, although the prices will be reduced. It's also that they're able to sell a larger quantity because there is a blockade. Like I do think Iranian oil was getting out, but the amount did start getting reduced in terms of how much was getting out. The
Well,
other
Iran was able to
element,
sell as much as it could pump. It was just limited to selling it to a few places and especially to China. And China would pay like 10 to
no,
$15
I'm
less a
talking about
barrel.
during the war. I'm talking about during the war. So the other element of the deal that could be is that the Strait of Hormuz. Now, I think what's going to happen with this is America's going to say the strait is completely open, it's not chargeable. Iran's going to say, and there's no toll. Iran's going to say we're charging an environmental fee and that we're control over it. That's what's going to happen at the end of it. So, how would you view that?
Yeah, so that's not going to fly. No one older than 5 years old is going to actually think that like you can just call a toll an environmental fee and then that makes it okay. That's nonsense. Nobody agrees with like the United States is not going to go along with that. I'm telling you right now, there is not going to be any tolls. It is not going to be allowed. This idea that we're not going back to the pre-war international maritime law norms where Iran doesn't get to threaten civilian shipping going through the Strait of Hormuz anymore is crazy. That's absolutely a minimum. Trump is politically completely incapable of agreeing to anything other than that. So that is going to be in the deal. Now, if
So
Iran
you,
violates it, there's going to be consequences in some form. And I suspect that if it does get violated, I think what Trump is going to do is allow Iran a little bit of leeway, which is why he's doing this like 30-day window, because he understands that the people, and I saw a post earlier, by the way, that apparently the Iranian foreign minister said that on the Supreme Council for Iran, there are people that are in favor of the deal and there are people who are very much opposed to the deal. So Iran is very divided. And we had that guy come
yeah,
in
they're not a
earlier,
monolith.
yeah,
They're
who
not a
said
monolith, yeah.
that the IRGC is like, we're ready to go to war over this. So we are going to have a situation where there will be IRGC commanders that are like, I do not comply with the deal, and I'm going to shoot at ships. And Iran and Trump is probably going to give Iran a period of time to be like, hey, you need to go sort those guys out and get them to stop. So he'll
Yeah,
probably
I
give
think it's
them
going to
some leeway
be.
for
I
like,
think the IRGC commanders who do that is when they see Americans trying to take their, for example, fighter jets or try and do some sneaky behavior on the strait, then they'll try and fire at them. But in terms of, just to be clear, you would see it as a major loss if there is any form of A, charge over the strait, or B, any administration by Iran on the strait, correct?
well, if Iran is able to like extort money from people to actually go through the strait in violation of international maritime law, that would be a huge change in the status quo. It would be a win for Iran and it
Well,
would be a
again, you're
loss
not
for
answering my
America.
question, and this is, and you're
I
just
am. I'm
taking it
telling
somewhere
you, that's
else.
the
And
result.
not, no, but that's false because it's not international maritime law. It's their own waters. But that's a separate point. I'm specifically saying because I want you to answer this specific question. If there is a situation where Iran A charges a fee, B has administration over the strait, you would see that as a failure on Trump's part, correct?
You have to define what you mean by administration over the strait. That's very vague.
Oh yeah, fair enough. I will. So, like in a scenario where, for example, it won't, because before February the 28th, it was just free flowing. Like Iran wasn't involved in what went in and what went out. And so what will happen here is Iran will be in charge of what goes in and out. So they'll be tracking everything that goes in and out. They'll have to get permission from Iran as they go in and out. These type of things.
Yeah, like if you have a ship that wants to go to Kuwait or something, and Iran says, I'm not going to give you permission, that's going to be an international incident, and that's not going to fly. That's not going to be allowed.
Okay,
So
cool.
I
So
think that's
that you
not
would
going to
see
be.
that as a you would see that as a loss, correct? If Trump allows that to happen.
Yeah, if Trump allows stuff like that to happen and doesn't do anything about it and doesn't do any kind of like punishment or anything like that, then it would be a big L for Trump for sure.
Okay, and what about what's your thing about Lebanon if Lebanon's included?
Yeah, I just think there's no way that can happen because Israel would never agree to it, and I don't even think Trump can. He can like try to yell at Netanyahu, it's not going to matter because it's just too important to Israel and it's not important enough to Trump.
If he includes it, would you see that as a major loss for Trump?
If he included explicit language that said that the United States is promising Iran that we will make Israel like stop fighting in South Lebanon, I think that would be an extremely stupid thing for him to do, and it would be an L for him because he can't enforce it.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay, I want to welcome Dr. Atusa onto the stage. Dr. Atusa, hope you're doing well. Give us your thoughts. Are you happy with this deal? Are you unhappy with this deal? What's going on?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Sally. I'm actually driving home from work, and all day I've been at work. So, did they release the conditions of the deal? Because I wasn't aware until, I
They've
wasn't
kind
sure they
of
released it. Did they
as
release the point?
yeah, as with anything, there's like differences of opinion about what's contained within there. So I guess we're only ever, as a matter of fact, we're gonna find out when we see the MOU. But vaguely we know what's in there. But like there is disagreements between Americans and Iranians.
Obviously, and there has been disagreements for the whole entire time of the war. I personally think that unless Iran would get to, for example, remove the sanctions completely on everything,
And so
not
the
just on
deal is
oil.
only energy, apparently.
Okay, so I have to see what they're getting in return for
So,
that.
because remember, this
But
deal,
and
Dr.
because
Tusa, just to be clear, it's not a permanent deal. It's just for 60 days. And remember, nuclear won't be in this because nuclear is going to be in the next deal. So in these 60 days,
perfect.
it's
Okay.
sanctions relief on Iran's energy.
That's it. So what about the strait? Like I was listening.
There's a difference of opinion. America saying it's going to be free, and Iran saying that there's going to be a fee charged.
Definitely, I would say that Iran shouldn't give up the charging of the environmental fee on the Strait of Hormuz during these 60 days, and depending on what they get afterwards and how the nuclear negotiations go, then let's talk about who controls or doesn't the Strait of Hormuz. You see what I'm saying? So, because it's such a strong leverage for Iran to use it during the negotiations, that just giving it up during this 60-day period, to me, it's a mistake, because you use it as a card in your hand to have leverage to push some of your points forward when it comes to nuclear negotiations, when it comes to, okay, what about sanction relief on everything else that Iran can export, import, etc. And also, what about the asset, like the frozen assets? I don't know what the situation is as far as the frozen assets. So I would say the strongest card for Iran is the Strait of Hormuz, and to giving it up during this 30-day, 60-day, whatever, it's a mistake. So I hope they hold on to the charging of environmental.
Yeah, I got a few questions for you on that. I'm gonna do the same thing I did with Manco, but from the other side. But just before I do, I just want to welcome Bruce onto the stage. Bruce, hope you're doing well. Is there anything you wanted to add about this deal?
Yeah, I'm skeptical like these other deals. I mean, what is this, the ninth deal or something like that? I mean, it seems like it's kind of a game that, we go through this thing and Trump makes announcements saying everything's great and everything's going to be wonderful and we're going to have peace. And then usually within 24 hours, Israel violates it and he doesn't do anything about it because they're his boss and they totally seem to own him. And then we repeat a couple of weeks later. I mean, I think if you just step back, uh his bosses want war. I think they want a lot of dead Iranians. They want to maybe expand into Iran. They want to kill as many of their neighbors as they can as possible. They want to bomb as much as they can possibly get away with, and as they push the limit where the one power that keeps them able to do this, which is the U.S., and a bunch of low information, easily fooled propaganda slurpers. And when they start to wake up and the dumbest among us Americans say, well, gee, maybe this isn't our ally. They back off a little bit and they run through some more PR, and then they say there's going to be peace or something like that, and then when people forget, which is a short memory span for most people these days, 5 minutes later, they go ahead and violate it. So, I mean, I know that's kind of cynical, but I mean, what I think I've said this 8 times every single time, and I think I've been right. And usually, I've said, oh, within 72 hours, it's going to fall apart. And I think pretty much every time it's been less than 48 hours. So I think that if there's especially, and I don't know enough about this deal because I just think there's such nonsense. I don't really pay attention because it's just sort of marketing. But, if there's any provision in this deal where there's something, I assume that there's something about, ceasefire, blah, blah, blah. Well, we know what's going to happen. The murderous genocidal crowd just can't help themselves. They just want to murder. They really, really, really want to murder people, and they want the violence, and they will violate it. And I'm sure there's, maybe some skeptics who are, all grinding their teeth, angry at me for saying this, but talk to me in 48 hours, because every single time that seems to be what happens. It's a psychopathic bloodlust that Israel has that just cannot be satiated. And I think that, to pretend that this is some kind of good faith thing, or to pretend that Trump matters, I mean, he doesn't matter any more than Biden did. Biden had dementia and he had handlers who handled him. Trump has handlers who handle him because he's co-opted. And he doesn't make decisions. It doesn't matter what Trump says. What matters is what the bloodthirsty Zionists want, because they own him and they own our country. And unfortunately, what they want is a whole bunch of dead Muslims and a lot of death and destruction and violence so that they can steal more land. It's as simple as that. And I think the only way it changes is when Americans, which is starting to happen, but you have to have a lot more Americans wake up, because we're the ones that empower this. Without us, there would be peace in 15 minutes. But because we have this big bully, the ultimate, you basically have a mafia country and a very big mafia family in the form of the U.S. that's protecting it. And as long as we're out there protecting it with, dumb nationalists saying, rah, 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 USA, greatest ally, then they can get away with whatever they want. And they're going to push as much as they can and kill as many as they can and steal as much land as they can, and push that limit where, they lose a few people, and they worry about losing some of the Republicans because they've lost a lot on the left. But most of the left, the people that matter, like Schumer, they'll vote for it anyway. And they let the voters have a steam release valve and pretend that they're, like AOC, pretend that they're anti-Israel. But then at the end of the day, they go back right to it. So I know that's kind of cynical, but like I said, I mean, it's been 8 times, and I think I've been right again and again. Unfortunately, that's the way I look at it.
I mean, on the space, no one disagrees with you. We're not even talking about whether We're not talking about what Israel's going to do. We all agree they're going to violate. We were
Right.
talking more about what would happen after they violated. So we already accepted that a long time ago.
Yeah, that's the good thing about your spaces. And it's funny, and notably, the other side is very cowardly. You're always willing to have people and your panel and people like me and others would we'd gladly debate these folks, but most of them are bots, so they can't talk. They can only tweet. But the few real ones, they either are just totally fooled and don't have the depth and know they don't have the depth, or they're totally co-opted and they're evil and they know they're evil and they can't debate either. So yeah, notably on your spaces, it's a breath of fresh air because you have sensible people. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, that's a good way to look at it, is what happens when it is violated. I guess you have more of the same. And, I wish this wasn't the case, but, even many years ago, I was saying we're in a fourth turning, and that's just, before.
Did Bruce cut off, or is it
I
me?
don't hear him.
Oh yeah, Bruce, you cut off. You might have to refresh.
While he is refreshing, did you read the foreign minister for Iran? He basically seems pretty strong in support of Lebanon. Does that mean anything to you, or are you saying that it won't? He said that the provisions that he's talking about, he said on all fronts, including Lebanon, and he reiterates it later. This was on Iranian TV.
Oh no, I agree with that. The Iranians are adamant that Lebanon's going to be included. There's no doubt about that, and I do disagree with Manko. I do believe that they're going to be included. Where my disagreement with where our discussion was not about whether Lebanon's included. We were talking about whether when Lebanon's included, the deal's done, then Israel violates the deal and bombs Lebanon.
And then what will
Does that make
Iran
sense?
do? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and our point of view, I think yours and mine that we share, is that Iran cannot afford to come to the aid of Lebanon. That I think it will be a tremendous mistake. What's really changed the whole world's vision of Israel is the genocide in Gaza. And so it's all become humanitarian. So the idea that the whole world is going to watch the Lebanese get sacrificed to this evil monster that Bruce was talking so eloquently about, or describing so eloquently, I just don't think that the world can stand by and bear that. And I do think that it'll be a tremendous moral cost in the eyes of the world if Iran doesn't come to the defense of Lebanon. What do you think about that?
No, I agree with you. I totally agree with you there. That was what my discussion with Hassan was about, because he felt like it'd be fine if they waited a couple of months, and I don't think it would. But Joe, jump in. What was your thoughts?
It was more so to question something. It's not that I believe it, but well, I do kind of. I mean, I guess that's why I'm questioning it. Does Iran really have a
it would just be very, very slow traffic. You would never get back to the original traffic that was there. So the vast majority of tankers are going to have to use the Iranian way, if that makes sense.
No,
Yeah, I'm
they
just
wouldn't, because it's a big enough strait where you can fit a lot of ships through it, and Iran would only it's only claiming half of it. So the whole southern half of it is still going to be
not half of
outside of their
it.
jurisdiction.
I thought the length was 23 kilometers, right?
Miles, 22 point something miles.
And how much is Iran allowed to? Is theirs? Iran's was it 13 or 16? I can't remember.
No, I mean it's you just look at the halfway point.
16.
So if it's 22 wide, it's going to be 11. The northern 11.
Iran.
yeah, just Oman and Iran. I've seen it though, Manko, like with my own eyes. If there
I
is
did too, so.
shallower waters, you cannot have the same amount of traffic go through there as you did before.
Bro, the waters have been
Right.
really shallow. They even let Flipper Beatrix in there. So that's who wants to even go on the Omani waters? Do you know how much risks is there? Like, why would you even?
No, no. Look, hey, in piloting, here's the thing. U.S. Navy here talking, in piloting and navigation, okay, anytime we enter a port, any channel, any navigable waterway, you have what's called in your charts, you have depth, water depths, and you take the fathometer, you have your depth readings. Every channel marker, that's why we have channel buoys, markers, because a channel is not, okay, 22 miles, okay, it's 22 statute miles wide, but that does not mean the depth of the water is all the same. It's not all the same. That's why you have certain parts that are probably, I would say, maybe, be honest, could be 6 feet, 5 feet deep, you know. It depends. You have only it's called navigable waterway passages, and the channel buoy markers mark those depths. So it's not 22 miles of navigable water for tankers. There's only probably, I don't have it in front of me right now, but probably just a few miles for just navigable waters for a tanker. I don't have, I
Yeah,
can
I
look
pulled
it
it
up.
up. Hold on.
Okay.
I pulled up
All
the
right.
maps of everything. So actually the area that is shallow is the area by Iran, not the area in the south. The area in the south is not shallow, and the main shipping channel is actually in the southern half of the strait. The problem with Iran is they have a bunch of those islands up to the north, and the area around the islands is shallow. And so those areas are marked as no-go zones for tankers.
There you go.
Because they
Yeah.
have depth of less than 25 meters.
Yeah, and you need up to, like, for submarine operations, those super tankers, believe it or not, you're looking at 150 feet clearance. Seriously. For us, for safe passage. So they're like 60, 70 feet of draft depth. People have a hard time realizing how deep those things go. So yeah, you're very limited where they can go.
Also, there was discussions between Iran and Oman, and it does seem like they've got some kind of agreement about how they're going to control the Strait of Hormuz. And this was what made Trump angry, right? And he said he was going to blow Oman up. And
well, yeah, and Oman's going to back down. Like, Oman's not going to fight for this the way that Iran would fight for this. This is important to Iran, but Oman is basically ambivalent to it. So there's no way Iran's going to go along with it. I mean, Oman. No way Oman's going to go along with it. Like, they're not going to make an enemy of the United States.
Yeah, I think Oman's playing it in the sense of to see where the wind blows, and if they do see it blowing more towards Iran's way, then they will jump on board with that administration.
This navigable passage through there is going to be very critical. They're literally, we're talking, it could come down to yards or meters, not miles, meters. And this negotiation is going to be critical. Yeah, well, Mango said he has the chart there to look at the depth. Take a look at depth operations and actual channel. They're called channel buoy markers. That's going to be huge. I'm not surprised that the deep navigable water passage is more to the south because of those island chains. Anytime you're getting next to island, anywhere in the world, unless it's volcanic islands like Hawaii or down there in the Caribbean, you literally could go from 20 feet deep to 3,000 feet in just 200 meters. It's crazy, but we're not talking about volcanic structures there. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. You could be in just 20, 30 feet of water. You could be literally a couple hundred yards, a couple hundred meters off the coast. It's crazy. That's why it's so dangerous when you're going through channel markers. You have to have a pilot guiding you through those channel buoys.
So, Dr. Atusa, one of the questions I had for you is when you, because I had this discussion with a few people, in a hypothetical situation, let's say Iran got all the demands, and the one thing they had to agree to was that the Strait of Hormuz had to be free. What would be your thoughts if Iran signed that agreement?
I mean, like, okay, keep the nuclear enrichment material. We will unfroze the assets. All the sanctions are removed, but then let go of the Strait, control of the Strait of Hormuz. Well, I personally, my thought is they have to have UN or some sort of an international authority sign off on it, and some guarantees that nobody else is going to suddenly, U.S. naval forces suddenly come to the region and they want to control it. Like guarantees by international authorities signed and sealed that no other authority, like it'll go back to the way it was before. But I think that one of the other conditions that Iran had set forward was that the U.S. would pack up their military bases from the Gulf region and say Tel Aviv. So I also want to see that. Like if I let go of the Strait of Hormuz, then there's got to be guarantees, and there's got to be there's got to be. It's not just guaranteed by the U.S., but some international authority. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's
but do international authorities matter? Like no one cares. Like US does what it wants.
I think that's something that Larry Johnson has also mentioned. Yeah, well, Trump can do whatever they want, but there should be penalties in place. See, the thing is, in like anytime there is conflict, even let's say it's like a lawsuit, and I too, like Magnus is an attorney as well. That as long as you get a judgment, and in the judgment there are penalties set forth if any of the parties break their end of the bargain, that it is at least, if it's not reinforceable by the court, I guess you could say, but most of these are enforceable by the court, but at least you have documented for future reference and damages to be collected, etc. So these are just safeguards, right? To put in place. Anytime you negotiate with any party, you want to have safeguards. You want to have uh, other parties sign off on the deal, etc. I believe Larry Johnson and other people have uh, pointed out that the importance of that. Now, you see, the deal can always be broken, right? But by either parties, but most likely in this case by the U.S. and their Israeli allies, right? But that's unavoidable, right? But the more signatories you have, the more guarantees and penalties you have, the better position you have. That's what I'm trying to say. So I'm saying I'm gonna tighten the noose a little bit if I'm giving away something as important as the Strait of Hormuz. Um, but like I said, only if I'm getting everything else I'm asking for. I hope that makes sense.
So so what about a scenario? Because remember, this is the 60 days. In the 60 days, the nuclear enrichment isn't included, nor is the bit about America leaving the region. So in these 60 days, if there's a deal where Iran does not charge at all, but it gets, as you said, sanction relief, it gets its asset unfrozen, the peace in Lebanon, and various other things. Do you see that as a failed deal or a good deal? That's basically the only concession they give,
Well,
and then they get everything else.
but the thing is, that's just during the 60 days, right? Then they're going back to the negotiation table and talking about the nuclear situation
Exactly. They'll be
and the
talking during
Strait
these
of
60 days, yeah.
and also continue to talk about the Strait, right?
No, the deal is going to have the Strait in there. The first stage of the deal is going to have the Strait in there. We just don't know if it's going to be with a fee or without a fee.
Right. So if that's the case, like I said, I would not give up the Strait of Hormuz. I would put that contingent on the future negotiations where we talk about the nuclear situation. Because I would not give up the Strait of Hormuz if I'm also going to give up my nuclear enrichment and my nuclear facilities, etc. You see what I'm saying? That's a bargaining chip for Iran, the Strait of Hormuz. So I'm saying we can postpone that, who controls the strait, who charges or not, based on, like, we would put that would be how I would negotiate. Obviously, I don't know what the Iranian government is going to do, but I would, it's so important, like the strait is so important that I would not give that up and sign off on it unless I know what I would be getting from the nuclear negotiations.
So to be clear, if there's a deal in which Iran has signed and it has it where the Strait is not charged at all, you will see that as a failure?
If it's going to be a permanent and not contingent about upon what happens with the nuclear negotiations, yes.
Yeah. Well, the nuclear is not in this bit. It's only the Strait and the other
Correct,
bits.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. So what I'm saying is, if I was Iran, I would say, let's also talk about the charging at the, in the, for the passages of the Strait of Hormuz when we negotiate the nuclear enrichment, etc., etc. That's what I would do. I would not give up like so soon, because remember that these deals are also breakable, like especially by Israel, like Lebanon. Okay, obviously Lebanon is included, but who's like guaranteeing that Israel is not gonna break the deal, right? So I will always use the Strait of Hormuz as a bargaining chip. Remember, the strait was open until the U.S. embarked on this adventurous move of attacking Iran, right? With their allies being Israel. So the whole idea of closing the Strait of Hormuz by Iran was to use it to basically to put pressure on the world or global economy so that they can get what they deserve, which is removal of sanctions on frozen assets, leave us alone with the nuclear stuff because we are a part of NPT and IAEA. Like, they give us a break. We don't have a bomb, and IAEA has, come and basically investigated or whatever, has been overseeing this situation. Like, come on. I mean, if I was Iran, I would really play hardball, as during the negotiations, and I wouldn't give up the Strait of Hormuz. I would not do that. To me, that's failing the negotiation. I would say, okay, unfroze the assets, um, and remove the sanctions completely, like on everything, not just on energy. Like, I don't even know why they would, accept sanction release only on energy.
I think the reason
I
for
don't
that
know.
is because, no, that one's fair enough, isn't it? Because remember, it's just a 60-day temporary one, isn't it? They haven't got the final deal. In order to remove other sanctions, I think it's more complex. You've got to go through Congress, whereas the oil ones can be just done immediately. So it's immediately your oil and energy sanctions are removed for 60 days. We're going to talk about the rest in other stages, is kind of the perspective on that.
Dr. Tusa, if there was, and this is just theoretical, I'm not saying this is what happening. Dr. Tusa, if there was corruption happening because of the funds going through the strait. Imagine like the president or the IRCG was, somehow evidence came out that they were using it for their own funds. Would the Iranian people revolt? Because I don't know why.
Yeah.
I just have a sense that this toll is going to be used as propaganda. Like, I expect this ceasefire to one of two things: either Israel starts it back up, whenever, or this quiet time is used to calm people down in Iran to then run propaganda campaigns internally to inflame because now that they're not united against America, can America run propaganda campaigns that'll make them go against their own, against the RRGC? Do you see what I'm talking about?
I mean, you confused me towards the end because then you said U.S. propaganda against Iran. But I thought that in the beginning you said, what if there was 100% evidence, like accurate, credible
No, no, I'm
evidence?
saying that would be
No.
American propaganda. That's what I'm
Oh,
saying.
interesting.
Not that it's
Interesting.
true, but they use somehow they use propaganda to get that information in Iran. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that the funds that are being collected from the Strait of Hormuz is filling the pockets of people, like for their personal wealth, etc.
Yeah, it's kind of what happened with the Shah too, right? To a degree.
I
But
mean, no, not really. Like, it wasn't like that with the Shah. You're talking about the
The Shah
revolutions
was
of
way
revolution.
more stuff, but it was part of it though. That the money was going to his family and not really helping the Iranian people. That was part
Yeah.
of the revolt.
But that was true, though. Like, it wasn't a
Yeah,
propaganda.
100%.
It was
100%.
true. Yeah. Yeah.
but
So, if they make this, like, I don't believe that the Iranian people are gonna just be so naive to fall for the US propaganda if it's a propaganda. Um, because they have seen the kind of behavior and the war crimes that have been committed during this war, right? Why would they suddenly believe something that the US propagandists are trying to imply that, the funds are being used for corruption, la 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 la. You know what I mean? So no, I don't think that would be the case. Um,
It's just worrisome to me
that
because typically when people are scared and upset, which a lot of people will be, right? Because things are not going to be better. Um, they had a lot of hardship. It's when the time that people are looking to point a finger to blame somebody, right? And although you blame U.S. or Israel, you're also going to blame some people internally. And I wonder if this period of time is going to be used for propaganda campaigns to be used against the Iranian people. That's what I'm saying.
And it's a great point. I mean, they will try that, but I think it's not going to work because what's going to end up happening is Israel's going to end up breaking the ceasefire, and the propaganda is going to be against, not the propaganda, but the real information will be against them. Siddharth made a great point here. He said, I think Iran wants the 60-day deal to secure peace for Muharram procession, a 2-month religious period drawing millions of pilgrims to Iran and Iraq. So yeah, that could be interesting. Maybe that's why they were more amiable to a 60-day agreement. Dr. Tusa, one other question to you, because you are obviously Iranian as well, is what's your? I had a very long discussion with Hassan and Hoz, who gave two completely different perspectives. But what's your thoughts about? There's a deal agreed. Iran gets everything, total, complete submission by Trump. And then what happens is Israel bombs Lebanon. Lebanon's part of the deal as well. What do you think Iran should respond immediately, or if they don't, what happens? And the reason I'm asking this question is because I think Iran won't respond immediately, and I think if they don't, that's going to get the world to start turning on them. But what's your thoughts on that entire thing?
if I was Iran, I would include that in the agreement, that if Israel starts breaking the peace deal or whatever ceasefire by bombing Lebanon, that it is in the agreement signed and sealed that Iran, according or per the clauses in the agreement, has the right to hit back as a defensive measure against the breaking of the agreement, the deal, the peace deal, and that is not going to be assumed as a hostile move by Iran. These things need to be like said and really spelled out in any kind of agreement that Iran is going to sign, because you have to predict the behavior of your adversary based on their historical record of behaving, and you are going to have to preemptively put that down in the written agreement that is being signed by the parties that are signatory to the agreement. Meaning, we know that there is this situation or this behavior that Israel continuously breaks the ceasefire and attacks. And since Lebanon is a part of the deal, as a part of the agreement, Iran holds the right as a defensive measure to strike back, and that is not going to be assumed as hostile or aggressive or whatever, and that there won't be any restarting of a war because Iran just in a defensive measure. You see what I'm saying? Like everything, like your attorneys should know this. They should write everything down as in the legal document, so then nobody can come and turn their fingers around, to Iran and say, oh, you see how they they like whatever.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But what I'm specifically asking is, like, let's say you're right, and
Solomon, can I tell you why I agree with you?
which bit?
Because we have precedent, right? If Iran did not hit Israel after what they did to Nasrallah and they did to that whole neighborhood, they're not going to do it simply because they break a ceasefire. I really don't think so. I agree with you. It's going to have to be something worse.
Yeah, I think it's gonna have to be something big for Iran to respond. And so, Dr. Tusa, that's what the question's more about. It's like the agreement does have it in there, and the agreement does have that, like, you know what, Lebanon's part of it, no one can strike them. Let's say they went into the specifics. But remember, this is going to be a very basic MOU as well. It's not going to be something complex. So it's just a 60-day ceasefire. And then I'm saying Israel breaks it. I personally think Iran won't respond unless it's something huge. What's your thoughts? Do you think Iran responds as soon as Israel violates, or do you think they don't respond unless it's something big?
I think Iran would respond
Immediately.
I remember Iran said that if Israel during the ceasefire or this whatever memorandum of understanding, that if they attack Beirut and Atia, what is that other area?
Dahia, yeah, Dahia.
Dahia, that Iran will strike, and they did strike. They did strike back. So, that's why I'm saying, even during the memorandum of understanding during these 60 days, I believe Iran should and will strike if they are clearly stating what are their their red lines, basically. Just like they did, if they strike Beirut and Dahia
Yeah, so
or
to be
north of that.
clear, if Israel bombs South Lebanon, remember the deal has Lebanon in it, you think that the first time Israel bombs South Lebanon after the deal has been agreed, Iran will respond and bomb Israel?
Um, South, I don't know about the South. Remember how, but Beirut and they're not
No, no,
South.
that's fine.
They're
So you're talking. So you do think look? This is what I'm trying to get down to the bottom of. So I agree with you. Iran said, "Look, you bomb Beirut and Dahria, we're gonna hit you," and then
and then
Israel
they
did
did.
it, and they got hit. But then
Yeah.
after that, if you remember, Iran said, guess what? Now all of Lebanon is going to be part of the security umbrella, and they never really followed through. Israel continued to bomb South Lebanon. So I'm asking,
Okay,
if
so I
Israel
wasn't.
was to bomb South Lebanon after this deal is agreed, you don't think Iran's going to respond then? Or you do?
Honestly, if the entire, I mean, if Lebanon is included, it's logical that they should. Now, whether or not they will do it, I have no idea whether or not they will actually do it. If
Yeah,
this,
yeah, but
you,
that's what I'm talking
whatever.
about. In terms of they should, I agree with you. They need to enforce the agreement that the other side have signed. I'm saying that they won't enforce it, and this is going to become a trap for them, where they'll end up being stuck, where they'll have an agreement where Israel can continue bombing South Lebanon, and they won't respond because they've got a deal, and that's going to make everyone turn on Iran.
But Sully, can I just say one thing? I think the question is, right? The question should be is if Israel does break the ceasefire, right? And
Yeah.
yes, when they do, you're right, absolutely. When they do break the ceasefire, is that for Iran? How are they going to take this? Is it okay? We're going to retaliate and strike Israel, and probably America won't even get involved, or would they go around? And this is what I think they should do: is say, "Hey, the deal is off completely. Either you tame your dogs, or we're not going to sign anything." And I think that's what it should be. And I think that's what the question is: is it a deal breaker, or is it just like, okay, we're going to just retaliate on Israel and hit them, kind of, sort of, in that scenario?
Yeah, that could be another move they do, no doubt. They could end the agreement, they could close the strait again. There's many mechanisms where they don't need to bomb Israel again, or they can use, I mean, bombing Israel again is probably the preferred method, but all of those mechanisms, and that's the same question though, Hussein. Do you think that when Israel violates this deal, that Iran does that, or do you think Iran kind of lets it slide?
No, I honestly, I think they would go in the direction that I'm hoping they would go into, is they say, like, hey, we're gonna, all chips are off the table. I'm not going to sign anything unless you control your little dogs over there. And
No. So Hussein, just to be clear, this is after the 60-day signing. So they've signed the deal, they've signed the MOU. There's a 60-day stage one ceasefire agreement. 10 days into the 60, well, it won't even take them 10 days, but okay. 10 days into the 60 days, Israel bombs Lebanon.
yeah, I mean, they can just easily say, like, we're ripping up the whole deal. I mean, it's the same thing as them from before they sign or after they sign. They're gonna basically say, like, we're not gonna continue on with this.
So you
Back
think that Iran will just rip up the deal the first time Israel violates and bombs South
the
Lebanon?
problem is, Sully, is that they have been in this situation already, what, 3 times before, where the deal has been broken because of Israel, and they've been in this situation before. It was pertaining to them particularly in the past, but now it's, involving all their proxies, or rather all the resistance in the region that they want to put into this deal. And if we're going back in history, Israel has violated the deals on multiple occasions. They even assassinated Hania in Tehran. For me, as if I was the Iranians, I'd say, like, hey, like, this has happened in the past. We are just going to break this deal off if Israel just can't control themselves. And we know that they're not going to be able to control themselves. And I think that they will say, you know what, to America, either you control them, or we're not going to continue on with this phase two part of the negotiations. Because remember, the phase two, I guess, would be including the nuclear deals, right? And that was probably more important to Trump than the Strait of Hormuz, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Because what you're saying, in essence, Suleiman, is the same thing like um, Hussein was saying, that it's the same thing that has been happening. So often, Trump and everybody else came out, Pakistanis and everybody else, oh, there is a deal, we're so close to sign it. Then Israel breaks the ceasefire and Iran strikes, and that's it. The deal is done and over with. So it doesn't matter whether it's before the 60 days or after the 60 days. I think one of the things that you're trying to ascertain is, like, what if the deal is actually signed? Well, that's what I'm trying to say. If the different clauses of the agreement are not being upheld by either of the parties or Israel, like the third wheel here, then again the deal is done and over with. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I'm saying, at least for the sake of having it written and basically displaying the seriousness of any breaking of the ceasefire or attacks on Lebanon. Iran has the right, and I don't know if Iran is going to put this in, but if you include Lebanon, then include different conditions under which, if that is broken, then what are the consequences of that action according to a legal document signed under this agreement? That Iran will strike back, and that's it. Now, okay, now whether or not the deal is broken, it depends on the US. Are you, because now Iran did a defensive move for Lebanon, that's part of the deal, and according to the conditions of the agreement, strike back. Now, is US going to suddenly say, oh, then we're going to put that back, the sanctions? So be it. But if it's written in the agreement that actually, in that case, Iran holds the right to strike in a defensive mechanism, strike back at Israel. Now, the ball is in the US courts, right? Because then,
Yeah, I don't
if
think, Dr. Tusa, just to get on that one, so I don't think that's going to be written in the agreement because I think it's going to be a very basic MOU. And I do think the MOU is going to be written in a way where both sides can say that, oh, it's the MOU's in our favor. But in terms of what you're saying, I'm saying, I think I disagree with maybe you and Hussein, and let's see if what happens. I think that Israel, when they violate the ceasefire, I don't think Iran will immediately respond. I think they'll write something and say, look, they've broke it or whatever. But I think Iran's going to have a bit more of a flexibility in responding immediately. And I think you and Hussein think that there's going to be an immediate response. What that immediate response is, maybe either kinetic, or it may be they shoot the strait or end the agreement or whatever it may be. I think that just looking at the way Iran's acted over the last 4 months, I think Iran's problem is that they're like, oh, we've got an agreement. We need to make sure we follow the agreement. We need to make sure we stay with the agreement. And when Israel violates it, we're going to have to just, tell them to stop. And I think Iran's going to continue telling them to stop for a very long time, if not throughout it, without actually responding.
So, Sulaiman, what if Iran gets someone else to respond? For instance, like Yemen, the factions
Houthis
in
can
Iraq.
respond, but I think Israel wouldn't care if they get the Houthis to respond, isn't it? It won't be. There's a huge difference between Iran responding and the Houthis responding. Their ability and capability is exponentially different.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Joe, jump in.
Yeah, so look, if we're going to be completely objective, right, in this,
Try to be, mate. Try to be.
Impartial, right?
Try to be.
Yeah. Well, Lebanon was being bombed. Lebanon was being attacked. Iran did not step in. People were saying, where's the other Arab countries? Why hasn't Iran done anything? Iran has left them out to dry, blah, blah. They didn't do anything until they were attacked, right? So Iran did not act in Lebanon until Iran was attacked itself, right? In this war, it is the only war I've ever seen where it's like watching a chess match where you take a turn, then I take a turn. You take a turn, then I take a turn. This wasn't a war. This was, God knows what it was. It's, tit for tat, basically, for several months.
Well, that's not true, Joe. Come on.
What's not true?
So the bit that it was tit for tat. So in the first 39 of the days of the war, it wasn't you take a strike, I take a strike. They were both attacking each other consistently over the 39 days. And it wasn't like Iran was like, you take a tap, now I'm going to take a attack. Like Iran throughout the day had their different procedures by which they were going to strike, and they struck their different locations. And it wasn't like they're waiting for a US attack before they did the next attack. Now, yes, these last few days, yeah, I agree with you. That's been more tit for tat, as in you take a strike, we'll take a strike, and then Iran won't be taking another strike until US. That bit has been, but not the first 39 days.
Really? You think in the first 39 days?
Yeah, I know. We covered it live. It was literally like Iran would be sending wave after wave, and they'd have certain times where they would be striking, irrespective of if what the US response was, and US was striking throughout. US had certain cold periods because they only had one aircraft tanker, so there were certain bits where they had gaps, and there were small bits where Iran had gaps. But it was never like you hit, then we hit. This is why I had no issue with the 39 days. The recent one, yeah, that's why I've always thought like this is just lame. Like Iran would always
Okay,
be like, okay, you hit me first, now I'm gonna hit you. Okay, now I'll wait for you to hit me again, then I'll hit
maybe it's
you.
just me. I kind of felt like that's the way it was in the
No,
beginning. It was like
Joe,
waves in the first 39 days.
Joe, I was there with Suleiman. I was 24/7, 12 days straight, 24/7. We
21
stayed
days,
on
Andrew. 21 days,
21.
mate. It was the
21
first.
days. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, my God. Yeah, the 21 days. We were 24 straight, Joe. And Sully's right. Iran was hammering the hell. Iran won the war. They and I call it a war. Iran won the conflict. They won it. And
Hmm.
now in the past, but you're right, Joe. The past couple months, it's been insane. It's the tit for tat game, but not in the beginning. No, not that first
Yeah.
30 some days. It was not,
Well,
brother.
but still, the point was that Iran didn't hit until it was hit. Um, they're very like they haven't been super aggressive. I don't know why I would give anyone reason to believe, except for what they wish would happen.
But Joe, the axis of resistance, they coordinate with each other. Don't forget that.
But so where were they before Iran got hit?
No,
Hezbollah
but
took care of it.
that's a
Hezbollah
different
took it.
that's a different argument, though, isn't it? So just to address that specific argument, that's a totally different situation. So the way when it comes to Iran, they always were in this situation where they didn't want to escalate, because if Iran had jumped in the Hezbollah situation, then the US would have gone to war. And this war that we're having now, we would have had then. And Iran just weren't ready for the war. They took all this time. There was major escalatory buildup of their military capability and military arsenal. So that made a lot of sense. And in terms of Hezbollah, they dominated Israel. Like, it was totally different then, if you remember. Israel couldn't even get into Lebanon. They couldn't even take an inch of Lebanon. They got absolutely demolished. I covered that war as well. And we were saying that they're going to get demolished, and they got demolished really badly. So I don't see any. So I don't think that that was not Iran responding. But in terms of Iran being very averse to striking, then that bit I agree with. I think Iran always is in a defensive posture. I think some of that is religious reasons, because in Islam there is this idea about defensive war, and maybe I feel like they're following that. When I think that in modern warfare there may needs to be a bit of flexibility, but I think that's what's happening there. But so yeah, that's the bit. But the bit where I think adds some merit to your argument is for example, if you remember, immediately after this, they said, okay, if they strike South Lebanon, we're gonna hit, like South Lebanon's included. I remember reading it, and I remember us discussing it on this space. The reason I remember it is because like this discussion we have now, I'll remember the bits of the agreement because we've had so many detailed discussions. I had it with Dr. Tusa, you, Hoz, and Parshand, and one other person who I forgot. So now I'll remember like everything that happened here because we had such detailed discussions. And so I do remember Iran saying, you strike South Lebanon, anyone in Lebanon, it's all part of the new umbrella. We're going to strike. And Israel continued to strike, and Iran didn't respond. So I do think that they're a bit more averse to striking unless there's something bigger, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's just I don't know where you come up to the conclusion. Not you, because I'm with you, right? That I don't think Iran would do anything. I don't know where you would come to a conclusion that they would, based on what they've done in the past year. There's nothing that shows that they would, right? I mean, at least from my point of view.
Other than Beirut. So when they said to them, if you hit Beirut and Dahia, we're
Yeah,
going to smash you up. And then they did that, right?
yeah, that one they did, but they're not really saying it here. And I don't know. I I don't see them as being aggressive enough, to be honest.
I
When they
agree.
get
I
attacked.
agree. I do think Iran is soft. This is why I feel like they're going to fall into this trap. I don't think it's based on their being evil or Machiavellian. If anything, it's being more soft natured. But the problem is they are, in my view, about to get trapped in a trap where all the hard work they've done over the last 5 months is going to be thrown down the drain. I know, because You know how you say how you understand psychology? Well, that's one of the things I've understood really well. This is why I've done pretty well in the social media situation. But not just that, in 2023, a lot of the ideas I was pushing have become mainstream because I know how human psyche works, I know how human minds work, I know how to relate ideas and thoughts and positions, and I know what moves are going to be made in that regard. And I'm very confident in saying that this is going to harm the global outlook on Iran if they agree to this deal, Israel breaks the deal, and Iran doesn't immediately respond. Because remember, you're dealing with a country that there's sectarian issues. There's a lot of these Salafist Wahhabists who kept on saying, "Oh, Iran's selfish," and we've been destroying them in debates because we know it's false. But this will now give them bigger and louder voices.
The problem is
But
the spotlight won't be on what's happening at the moment. Israel will break the ceasefire, and just like every other time, Israel will say, "Oh, we were just doing like a small defensive preemptive strike."
against the Hezbollah outlet, yeah, that's what they'll
Yeah,
say.
and then Iran came and attacked us when we were just defending ourselves at the time. Blah blah blah. And you see what I mean? I just feel like it's a really bad. You do kind of trap Iran into this situation where, because if you remember very early on, I was saying, if Iran doesn't take a deal and get what they want, if it's majority of what they want, they're going to be put in a place where the media can be weaponized against them, and there could be you can gain
Yeah, that's what's
support.
going to happen. I agree with you on
Right,
that. I think the media is going to be weaponized against them, but
right.
just not
Well, I
just
got
through
so attacked for it that time, and you were you were against me. Now you're with me.
which bit? Explain,
When
explain.
I was saying if Iran doesn't take a deal, the media can turn against them if they
Oh
don't.
no, no, I don't agree with this. Oh, sorry, I wasn't listening to you properly then. Yeah, that's ridiculous. You're talking nonsense there, blood. I'm saying the
No, I
media.
don't mean this deal. There was a better deal before.
No, there wasn't. This deal is the same deal everyone's saying. But
Mm.
no, I'm saying that the media because the media will go against them, not the Zionist media, the overarching normal media will go against them because like I said to you,
That
they will
is
see
that
this
is the
as.
Zionist media. The overall arching media is the Zionist
No,
media.
no. What I mean by that is like, voices that aren't mainstream. Like, for example, for example, a lot of these Christian voices, Sunni Muslim voices, a lot of these voices that were anti-Iran, but like they kind of had to accept it or start supporting Iran. A lot of them voices are gonna start being pumped where they'll be like, oh my God, Iran's so selfish, Iran betrayed, Iran only cares about Iran, it was all about money for Iran. These are the ideas that are going to be pushed. I know how it is. I guarantee you, mark my words, you're hearing it here first. This is what will be pushed if that happened. That's the point I'm trying to make. And that's what will lose support for Iran, not anything else. They'll never lose support where people are like, let me now become pro-Israel or support the Zayas. Like, that's not going to happen. Let's get Matrix Resist in the conversation. Matrix, go ahead, jump in.
Hi, Suleiman. Thanks for having me up. There's a lot of notes being said that's are true and others that are partially true. Look, we gotta look at it in like a more like how the resistance works. People often think, oh, they are completely dependent on Iran, which is not true. They all are independent actors, right? So why would Iran every minute need to step in because to take care of other people? Because Hezbollah is not just someone. It's not just a group. It's a part of Lebanon, and they are very strong. And we saw that during 2 years, or I mean, over a year, Hezbollah didn't react or respond to Israel, and people were questioning whether Hezbollah is still strong or not. And we have seen that maybe Hezbollah's capability was just 20% reduced or 30% reduced, not more than that. And they have, for years and years, built these arsenals of these drones and these rockets and these missiles. So, and the IDF and how many reports we are seeing, and this is partially why we know how many troops are getting wounded and murdered and getting retreated, and the front lines have a high casualty rate. It's not just 5% or 10%. It's actually some fronts have 15 to 20% casualty rates. So we saw in the year 2000 and even 2006 that even without Iran, Israel retreated from Lebanon just with Iran supporting the resistance, of course, and still supplying their weaponry through Syria. But Even though the main lines were cut, Hezbollah still got a lot of weapons through the borders, and they built a large arsenal of FPV drones, kamikaze drones, and missiles and arsenals. So the question is, how long can Israel sustain being invading force in Lebanon? Because it's not going to just take 5 or 6 months. Because how many troops are they going to let injured suffer and retreat and then go back in and then retreat? Like the same castle Netanyahu was flexing about how he conquered that castle, but the same minute that place was getting attacked by Hezbollah. So I think definitely it would ruin the deal if Israel gets escalating with Hezbollah. I don't. I hope, but I don't think it would escalate the region in a broader war if IDF says we struck 3 targets of Hezbollah, and probably 2 targets were not even Hezbollah, and they weren't even in the room or anything. I think it would definitely change the rule because Hezbollah needs Iran and Iran needs Hezbollah. It doesn't go one way. So let's be cautious because even Iran side said, even the US, but even Iran side said the media is not covering it well, and they have like basically are actually dodged some questions because maybe for security reasons, and also it would be an internal crisis for Iran for the supporters because Iran has millions and millions and many millions of supporters that support Hezbollah, so and they have been waving Hezbollah's flag for 100 days now in the streets. So Iran cannot let Hezbollah systematically get weakened without doing anything. And I think these frozen funds and these tolls and the Hormuz are going to be massive wealth transfer to also part of Hezbollah rebuilding the south, like they always did, and regaining their land, and they will be victorious.
Exactly. That's one of the points that a lot of concerned voices don't imagine, right? That if Iran can gain more power in the region, how does that change the dynamic? Like if Iran, by you know, getting what they are asking for during the deal, becomes a hegemon, how does that change the equation for Lebanon, Hezbollah, and occupied Palestine? We have to think about that, right? Because that's a broader vision. But if everybody's kept weakened in the region, who's going to come and save us? You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, I'm sure Iran, including Lebanon, in the agreement, they have a long-term vision. And in the short term, we may want to see more of an aggressive respond to Israelis' sort of attack on Lebanon, etc. In short term, and maybe the Iranian leadership is also looking at the longer term of how Iran having the funds, having the less restrictions, etc., can actually help.
Yeah, but how does that help? Because okay, Iran having funds, Iran becoming richer, yeah, that's really good for Iran. But in terms of how much time does that take? This war's not gonna in Lebanon isn't gonna last a huge amount of time. Hezbollah is winning on the ground. We don't disagree with that. But what's happening is Israel is decimating people on the air. They are killing so many Lebanese people. They are destroying Lebanese, they're carpet bombing Gaza. Some of the scenes that I've seen are shocking. It's disgusting. It's as bad as Gaza. The only thing is the Lebanese have somewhere to escape, but then no access to food or anything. Taking when like this help is relevant. It's about what happens now, and this current attack on Lebanon is happening because they stood with the Iranians. The day that they killed Ayatollah Khamenei is the day that the resistance joined in the war. So if they're going to be like, okay, now wait for us to get rich and in the future, blood will help you out. I don't find that to be morally acceptable. It's like someone jumps in a fight for me and then they start getting battered. I'm like, don't worry, bro. Like, let me get rich and I'll come back and help you. And it's like, but bro, I'm getting battered. And it's like, okay, cool, but don't worry, bro. Like, let me become like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
but
want to ask
I remember how
Go ahead,
Iran
Dr.
was,
Susan.
was shooting rockets at Israel after that, right? Attack on Iran. So it's not just that Lebanon entered the war. It's Iran was like boom boom Tel Aviv, right? I remember those days. So
What do you mean?
Iran really went hard on Israel,
Yeah, but that was
right?
that
Before
fight
even
between Israel and no, so you're missing the point. That fight between Israel and Iran was between Israel and Iran. I'm saying resistance. Hezbollah joined the war to help support Israel. To support Iran against the U.S. and Israel. Do you know what I mean? So now the U.S. is making sure Israel's staying protected. I'm saying Iran should be doing the same because that's where the reason Hezbollah joined the war is for Iran.
But Sule, are there no? Do you think there are more reasons to it why
Okay.
Hezbollah joined? Also, they joined for Iran. I'm not denying that. But within the year and a half that Hezbollah was being bombed, but not even that much. But they were actually at much, but it was more. A lot of civilians were killed, and IDF was always claiming it's Hezbollah, it's Hezbollah strikes. We destroyed 50% of Hezbollah's
Yeah, I'll answer
missiles.
that question. Beatrice, what do you want to add?
Yeah, I wanted to just give my take on this because I've been listening for a while. I actually joined when Manco was making a point. He's gone. So I actually think that Iran is not naive. I think Iran is very, very astute, right? Iran has ran rings around Trump in this negotiation from start to finish. Okay. They have stood their ground every step of the way. They have not like kind of retreated from the terms they set the first day about the Strait of Hormuz, etc. So Iran knows exactly what is in this MOU, what they've agreed to. And look, I kind of understand what you're saying, Dr. Thusan. I agree with you. But the very first time there was a misunderstanding about the Strait of Hormuz, whether it's chargeable or not, it wasn't documented properly. It seemed to be a misunderstanding. Pakistan intervened. I think it was whether or not Lebanon was included in the first kind of terms they set. This was right at the beginning. It was like 100, I don't know, 10 days in or something like that, right? And then Pakistan said, no, Lebanon was definitely included. That should tell us that Iran knows who the enemy is. And we know Iran knows who the enemy is. So if they have documented this now, I do think Suleiman's right. If Israel attacks South Lebanon, I don't think Iran's going to do anything. South Lebanon has been attacked throughout the last 105 days. Consistently. It has been made to look like Gaza. It's been bombed from the air, and there's been large chunks of that 105 days where Iran has not retaliated at all when South Lebanon's been bombed, right? And I think that it comes to a stage where there's only so many times you can start the clock and stop the clock. So when we're sat here, so two things I will say. One, when we say if Israel breaks the ceasefire, that's wrong. Israel doesn't keep a ceasefire to be able to break it. Israel does not honor a ceasefire. It doesn't break it, it just doesn't adhere to it. So that's the first thing. The second thing is when we sit here and say, oh, if something big happens, Iran will respond. What are we talking about? Soleimani, like President Raisi, the helicopter just went down. Ismail Hania was killed in Lebanon. Like, what are we talking about? The school, Minab school, like how big are we going to just start the clock every time to wait for something big to happen? These are massive, massive things that have happened to Iran. I think it's disgraceful that they've even agreed a 60-day ceasefire. What's the point of this? Literally. And that's where I'm coming from. And Joa, I do remember you saying something blah, blah, blah about pressing your attack. But I think, Joa, it's not what you say, it's how you say it that makes you get attacked. So that's the last thing I was going to say. That was my point.
I actually 100% agree. 100% agree. I wasn't aware of the 60 days of a cease. I totally was not aware that Iran has agreed to another 60 days of ceasefire. Hello.
They've not agreed yet. Just to be clear, they're just discussing it, but they're saying that it's getting finalized.
I
And
definitely
it's going to be a 60-day term.
Beatrix, just so I can learn, should I speak like this with the accent of the oppressor of the entire globe? Is that then more suitable for people?
for me not to be the enemy,
Uh,
and I can
no,
have
no,
some
no.
tea
You
and
sound exactly
crumpets.
like Beatrix, bro. You sound exactly like her. That is the perfect impression.
Come on,
All
Sully.
right,
No, he
Geezer.
doesn't.
Can I have a bottle of
Brother
milk?
Ziad, he got smashed by Manco yesterday. Manco smashed Jonah up yesterday. You should have been here to see it. There was bloodshed.
Only from the Zio perspective, innit, Joa? With the Matrix, just to answer your question, um, so it's completely different. So when Israel was bombing Lebanon, which they did, they bombed every single day. There wasn't a day that they didn't bomb. It would be specific strikes, unacceptable, targeting civilians. But it wasn't anything like that's happening now. It's similar to saying like, oh, Gaza was being bombed by Israel anyway. So that means the Gaza genocide, like it's the same, innit? But it's not. Like what we saw in the he's gone anyway now, doesn't matter. Okay. Anyway, go on, Andy. Jump in with your last points.
I mean, yeah, you can't really trust them to keep it. I mean, you can't trust Israel to keep a deal. I mean, they never have attempted to keep a deal. So, like, there's no guarantee mechanism. And yeah, like the moral thing for Iran to do obviously would be if they bomb Lebanon to jump back in, but I don't think they will do it. And I'm afraid then that if they don't do it, they will lose support from a lot of the people that supported Iran because like they backed Hezbollah and Hezbollah jumped in when Iran was getting attacked to defend them because that's what a two-way alliance is. This isn't the Israeli-U.S. alliance where the U.S. gives Israel everything and then Israel has done nothing and stabbed us in the back. Hezbollah has been there for Iran and Iran has been there, armed them. But if Lebanon's getting genocided and Iran doesn't do anything, that's a really bad look for them. Then it does unfortunately look like they're just in it for themselves. So I do think, honestly, as bad as this is to say, and this may sound like crazy, they kind of do need to like just keep the strait closed another couple months and trigger a global recession. So we can almost have this like great global awakening. Like the reasons like Muslims around the world are woken up to the horror of Israel is they have experienced it firsthand in their lives through the horrors of war and bombing. But like the West needs to experience a recession caused by this war so they can be like, this is Israel's fault. This is America's fault. We're done with Israel. They need to experience, the West needs to experience economic hardship from this war so more people turn on Israel to just put more pressure from all of these Western governments on Trump to sign a more ironclad deal in Iran's favor to actually secure peace to try to secure more peace for Lebanon. Like until I think there needs to actually be economic hardship in the West to cause real change. That's the only way I think there's going to be change. This war needs to cause economic hardship. I know that's might be hard to hear for some people, but I think Iran needs to keep the strait closed another 3 to 6 months.
Awesome. Guys, if you're on the second channel, click on the pin tweet, the pin on the nest. Oh, I even saw this out. And come across to the Moral Resistance channel. Come across to the Moral Resistance channel. We've got a great couple of interviews. We got Lieutenant Colonel Karen Katowski and we got Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar. So it's going to be a golden interviews. So do come across, click on there. Let me just tweet it out as well. And yeah, I think this was we had some really great discussions today. I enjoyed it. It was golden. We really got into the details. And I know Joe had destroyed Beatrix as well, but that's just common. So why even announce it? Joe was like, why are you even announcing that? That's just like
He got
that's just like every
slaughtered by
that's
Manco
that's just
yesterday.
like
There was
every day.
bloodshed on the space, literally. Jonah's blood was
He
shed
literally
all across
left
the
this.
space.
And
Then
you know what it
why?
was,
Then why did he
Beatrix? You
leave,
missed the bit.
Beatrix?
Beatrix, you missed the bit where we were talking about how Oman was flopping, and we can't trust them having control over the Strait of Hormuz. Do you know why?
Because they let me into the Strait of Hormuz.
Exactly. So how can you trust them to
I
have
loved
control?
it. I loved going through Oman. I loved going to the Strait of Hormuz. I went speedboating in the Strait of Hormuz. I went kayaking in the Strait of Hormuz. I did everything in the Strait of Hormuz. Spent a whole day in the water and came back, and
So,
it was
Dr. Tusa,
lovely.
when you talk about your fears about Iran not having full control of the Strait, this is an example where they're just letting any randos into the Strait of Hormuz. Like, this is the problem. Like, if Iran starts becoming even more relaxed, What's going to happen? There's going to be anyone and everyone there. Okay, so if you're on the second channel, I'm just about to end it. Come across.